Hey guys, tonight we're heading somewhere unpleasant. You blink your eyes open and immediately smell it. The thick, choking stench of mud, waste, and livestock. Welcome to medieval Europe, where the streets are narrow, the air is ripe, and you, dear listener, are wildly unprepared. Picture yourself standing in the middle of a bustling, grimy street in 14th century London. The ground squelches underfoot. You look down, hoping it's just mud, but your nose tells you it's more of a stew. You're wearing linen and wool, already sweating from the effort of breathing in a city where sanitation is still just a fun rumor. You think you're just visiting? But trust me, if you don't play along, the locals might think you're possessed. Or worse, French. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, drop your location and the local time in the comments. I love seeing where and when you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step forward carefully, trying not to trip on the uneven cobblestones or the odd chicken darting between feet. There's no real traffic system. Oxen carts jostle for space with fishmongers, and a man dragging a sled of firewood casually blocks half the street. Shouts echo around you, some of them in languages you don't recognize. This isn't the London of royal courts and noble poets. This is a hive of confusion, commerce, and cow dung. People brush past you wearing drab clothes smeared with sweat and soot. Everyone's got dirt under their nails, and it's considered weirdly suspicious if you're too clean. Hygiene, as you know it, doesn't exist. Soap is homemade lard mix luxury. Bathing is for the suspiciously rich or the truly desperate. And even then, water might be shared with 5 family members and possibly a sheep. Historians still argue whether the medieval peasant was truly filthy by modern standards or just, how, shall we put it, ecologically efficient. Either way, you stink already. You glance up and see bundles of thatch poking from rooftops like hay fever waiting to happen. Smoke curls from chimneys, wood smoke, peat smoke, and sometimes the acrid burn of who knows what tossed in to stay warm. That gentle fog hanging over the city? Probably the combined exhalation of several thousand fires and questionable decisions. You're trying to get your bearings, but a splash lands on your shoulder. You look up, just in time to avoid the second bucket of waste hurled from an upstairs window. No warning, no heads up. Just gravity doing its medieval job. It's part of the daily ritual. Waste and washing water dumped into the street, usually with a casual gardy-loo in places like Edinburgh, though not everyone bothers. You duck into a doorway to dry off and realize that doorway might be a tanner's shop. Congratulations. You're now breathing in urine-soaked hides. Fun side note, tanning leather required soaking animal skins in human urine to loosen the hair. And guess where they got that urine? Yep, they bought it. From people who peed in jugs and sold it. The medieval economy was nothing if not resourceful. As you shuffle along, the smells change, but never improve. Fish stands offer slimy eels and baking in the sun with a generous topping of flies. A pig wanders by unattended. It's probably someone's garbage disposal system, left to roam the alleys snacking on scraps. Cute in theory, until you realize pigs can get aggressive and you are wearing shoes made of something vaguely edible. Someone brushes past you and you feel your coin pouch jostle. Congratulations, you've just met your first pickpocket. Don't bother chasing him. For one, your shoes aren't up for sprinting. And 2, the local watchmen are more about collecting bribes than enforcing justice. And speaking of justice, if you're caught committing a crime, punishment is swift and, frankly, theatrical. Stocks in the town square, public whippings, maybe even losing an ear. Oh yes, and everyone will come to watch. It's like your neighborhood group chat, but with more blood and shouting. You make your way to what looks like the town center. A wooden platform stands in the square, used for announcements, performances, and more often than you'd like, executions. Today it's empty, but you spot the stains. You try not to imagine. Your stomach rumbles. The smell of baked bread reaches you, rich and yeasty. A woman sells rough loaves out of a basket. You approach, but she glares at your soft hands and odd clothes. Foreign, suspicious, possibly French again. She names a price that's laughably high and then mutters something about cursed travelers. Best to move on. You're realizing now, this world isn't just uncomfortable, it's actively trying to break you. From the ground that tries to trip you, to the buildings that lean like they're ready to fall, to the people who side-eye you like you might be bringing the plague. Oh, Right, the plague. It's not here today. Yet. But give it a few decades and things will get very, very bad. Bodies in the street bad. For now, though, it's just the baseline daily horrors of the Middle Ages. You pass by a smith's forge, where a red-faced man hammers iron into something vaguely sword-shaped. Sparks fly and children stand nearby, watching without goggles or adult supervision. Occupational safety? That's a laugh. That same smith probably treats burns with wine and good intentions. And while you stand there, watching molten metal and inhaling smoke, a cart rattles past carrying what looks like a wrapped corpse. No one seems surprised. You want to sit down. You want a quiet cafe and a phone charger. What you get is a splintery bench near a water trough, where a dog is licking something off a horse's leg. You start to feel itchy. Could be fleas. Could be bedbugs. Could be imagination. Probably not, though. Welcome to the streets of medieval Europe. You've made it approximately 20 minutes. Your survival odds? Let's say, not great. You wake up with your neck at an odd angle, curled on a pile of straw inside what generously passes for a home. And by home, we mean a small wattle and daub hut with walls made of sticks smeared in mud and dung, topped with a thatched roof that leaks even when it doesn't rain. The place smells like smoke, sweat, and wet dog, though there's no actual dog, just that lingering damp fur scent that seems to live in the walls. The floor is hard-packed dirt, scattered with rushes and herbs meant to soak up spills and, optimistically, ward off pests. It doesn't work. You scratch at your ankle. Definitely fleas. Or lice. Maybe both. Either way, they're part of the household now. You glance toward the low wooden door, which creaks like it's complaining. No lock, no privacy, no insulation. Just you, your roommates, and 1,000 uninvited insect guests. Your head aches slightly, possibly from the smoky air trapped inside overnight. There's no chimney, just a hole in the roof and a prayer that the wind is in your favor. A small hearth glows in the center, offering more smoke than heat. It's spring, which means it's only freezing in the mornings instead of bone-cracking winter cold. Congratulations. You timed your visit during the cheerful season. You stretch carefully, because standing up too fast in a space like this means hitting your head on the sloping roof. Again, ducking is a survival skill here, especially if you're taller than 5 feet 2. You shuffle toward the fire where a dented iron pot bubbles with last night's leftovers. It's pottage again. Always pottage. A gloopy mix of barley, root vegetables, and if you're lucky, a scrap of meat. Mostly, it's disappointment in bowl form. Someone mutters from a pile of blankets in the corner. It's your host family, probably 5 people sharing one space smaller than your living room back home. No bedrooms, no hallways. Just layers of humanity, trying not to snore too loudly. And yes, someone definitely just passed gas. Outside, the sounds of early morning bustle start filtering in. Hooves clop. A rooster crows with the urgency of a broken alarm clock. A neighbor curses loudly as he spills something. Probably chamber. Pot contents. Your nose confirms this almost immediately. You splash your face with cold water from a wooden bucket. It's been reused a few times already. Bathing, rinsing dishes, soaking laundry. Possibly all 3. There's no soap. Just hope. And maybe some sage leaves floating around in a desperate attempt at freshness. Historians still argue whether medieval homes were actually as filthy and crowded as popular media suggests. Some evidence points to reasonably clean peasant huts, at least by the standards of the time. But even the clean ones lack everything you'd rely on, like clean water, airflow, or a mattress not stuffed with moldy straw and despair. Speaking of mattresses, yours isn't even yours. As a visitor, or stray laborer, depending on your cover story, you're lucky to be given a spot inside the house. The alternative is sleeping in a barn, curled between goats, which weirdly might actually be warmer. Someone offers you a sip of ale. Yes, for breakfast. No, it's not optional. Water's often unsafe, and low-alcohol small beer is the daily drink of choice. You hesitate, but your dry throat wins. The debate. It tastes like warm bread that gave up halfway through. You step outside into the lane, greeted by the full assault of morning in medieval Europe. The light is weak, but already casting shadows off the overhanging roofs. A woman across. The path is already weaving, like actually weaving, not just staggering around. She's spinning wool with practiced fingers, eyes half-lidded, humming some old tune. A baby strapped to her chest dozes while she works. Multitasking, medieval edition. Your back aches slightly from the hard floor. It's subtle now, but give. It a few days and you'll be begging for chiropractic care. Not that it exists. What you'll get is a poultice made from mashed onions and goose grease, and possibly a few prayers. You wander to the village well, a popular morning spot, and the closest thing to social media. People chat, gossip, and side-eye strangers. You're not from here, you stand out. The way you walk. The way you don't smell like you were raised inside a chimney. It's not hostile, but it's cautious. You nod. Someone nods back. Progress. The bucket creaks as you lower it. Splash. Lift. Water glistens in the sunlight, which is pretty until you notice the tiny things floating in it. You blink. Better not to look too closely. You're going to boil it later, right? Right. By now, your clothes itch like a slow curse. They're rough-spun wool dyed with onion skin or madder root if you're lucky. The seams rub the wrong way. No underwear as you know it. Just long tunics and, if you're local, possibly brays, which are basically medieval boxer shorts. Fashion, it turns out, is another form of punishment. One local nods at you and says something incomprehensible. Middle English? Old French? You manage a weak smile and hope it's not a question. Language isn't standardized here and accents vary wildly even between neighboring villages. A simple mispronunciation might get you laughed at, or mistaken, for a spy. As you wander back toward the hut, you pass a group repairing a wall. They're using daub, a mix of straw, clay, and dung, slapped between wooden slats. It smells just as nice as you imagine. And it is the wall, not insulation. The actual wall. You can poke a hole in it with a stick. Children do, regularly. At some point you notice something moving in the thatched roof above. Birds? Sure. Also mice. Maybe something bigger. Small animals often burrow into the thatch, making little nests. Some fall out. Some just die in. There. Adds flavor to the ambiance. Oh, and if it rains, congratulations. Your straw roof turns into a sponge. You might as well stand outside. The concept of waterproofing is still evolving. Very slowly. A chicken walks into the house behind you. No one reacts. It's probably a regular. You sit again, hands red from the cold and rough work of hauling water. Breakfast round 2 is offered. Still pottage. Still warm at least. You accept. This time you detect a new flavor. Cabbage? Turnip? Regret? Hard to say, and that's your morning. Cold, itchy, mildly suspicious, and filled with chores. You haven't even started work yet, but you're already exhausted. Your back is sore, your skin is irritated, and your optimism is slowly being replaced with an oddly specific craving for ibuprofen. Sleep? Rarely restful. Beds? A luxury. Your home is a box of sticks and mud, full of smoke, animals, and sounds. You hope aren't rats. And yet this is normal here. People are born, live, and die inside these walls and think nothing of it. You're a few hours into your medieval life, and already you're dreaming of your soft pillow back home. The sun isn't even high yet, but the day's real work is calling, and ignoring it is not an option. You trudge behind the household's eldest son, who's carrying a hoe with the casual dread of someone who's been doing this since he was old enough to stand. You're heading to the fields because, like most people in medieval Europe, you live by the rhythm of agriculture. If the crops fail, you don't eat. Simple. Your boots, or what pass for them, squelch in the mud. They're little more than stitched. Leather slippers barely holding together. Every step is a gamble. Will you slip and fall face first into the furrows, or just twist your ankle and limp for a week? Either way, your dignity's already halfway gone. The field is a mess of clumps and puddles, and your job? Break it up, turn it over, yank out rocks, and try not to die of boredom or back pain. You grab a crude wooden tool and join in, hacking. At the earth like you know what you're doing. You don't. But faking it might buy you some goodwill, or at least avoid suspicion. Everyone works. Kids as young as 5 are out here pulling weeds and swatting at crows. Women plant and harvest. Men die and plow. No one gets a break unless they're sick. And even then, if you're just a little sick, you still show up. Being bedridden means losing a day's work, and that might mean skipping dinner. You pause to wipe your forehead. The wind is cold, but the work heats you up fast. Sweat trickles down your back, mixing beautifully with the layers of dirt already. Coating your skin, you sneeze. Is it allergies, the start of a cold, or just your body quietly begging for indoor plumbing? There's a rhythm to it. Dig, toss, stomp, move. It's almost hypnotic, and for a moment, you catch a glimpse of what life must have been like: hard, monotonous, and never-ending. The phrase living off the land sounds charming until you're actually doing it. Historians still argue whether medieval peasants were truly oppressed or had more free time than we assume. Some records suggest regular festivals and Sundays off. Others point to soul-crushing labor from dawn to dusk. The truth, like the soil under your feet, is probably a tangled mix. Someone shouts, a plow has gotten stuck in the mud, and everyone rushes to help. You lag behind, unsure what to do. Offer strength, suggestions, a motivational speech. You settle for pushing. It mostly works. The plow lurches forward again, pulled by two exhausted oxen who look like they're rethinking every life choice that led them here. Nearby, someone complains about the tithe. That's right. 10% of your harvest goes to the church, no questions asked. Another chunk goes to the local lord. What you're left with? Hopefully enough to survive. You're not a landowner, you're a tenant or a serf. And serfdom is basically the world's worst lease agreement. You straighten up and wince. Your back is not built for this. Neither are your hands. You already have a blister. The farmer notices, raises an eyebrow, and says something about soft, noble fingers. You laugh nervously, he doesn't. Lunchtime arrives, if you can call it that. Everyone takes a break by the edge of the field, unwrapping bundles of bread, cheese, maybe some dried peas. You've never been so happy to eat stale bread in your life. A mug of ale is passed around. No germs, no worries, just medieval trust. And the occasional shared tooth infection. You try to sit, but the ground is wet. So you hover awkwardly in a half squat, which is arguably worse. You notice the tools again. They're heavy, crude, and made to last. Unlike your spine, one of the older workers leans over and starts talking. He points to the sky, mutters something about weather signs, and then tells you about the time a freak frost killed his cabbages in May. You nod politely, though your brain is still trying to comprehend freak frost and cabbages in May in the same sentence. Farming here isn't just work, it's gambling. No irrigation, no fertilizer as you know it, no tractors. Just seeds, luck, and whatever the sky feels like doing that month. Too much rain, crops rot. Too little, drought, a fungus. Say goodbye to your barley. Locusts, enjoy chewing on roots this winter. And then there's the animals. Chickens, pigs, goats, all essential, all noisy, and all vaguely threatening. That pig eyeing you from the edge of the field? It knows weakness. Don't turn your back. Work resumes after the meal and now the sun's fully out. It's not hot, but you're sweating like you've been jogging in a sauna wearing a wool blanket. You try to focus, but your shoulders ache, your feet squish with every step, and your brain keeps drifting to strange places. Like whether time moves slower here because every moment feels like a lifetime. Someone calls out. A boy runs past shouting something about a neighbor's cow giving birth. Everyone perks up. Finally, something exciting. You tag along because why not? Medieval entertainment, baby. You arrive just in time to see the calf's slick, wobbly entrance into the world. People cheer. The cow moves proudly, or maybe confusedly. It's hard to tell. The baby stands, stumbles, and everyone claps like they just witnessed a miracle, which in this world they kinda did. One more healthy animal means one more bit of hope for winter. You walk back with the others, somehow both tired and wired. The rhythm of this life is punishing, but it's also grounding. You work, you eat, you sweat, you hope, repeat. There's no TikTok, no doom scrolling, just actual doom if the weather turns on you. Evening starts to fall, casting long shadows across the village. You pass another group, this one threshing grain with flails. Looks easy from a distance. Up close, it's just controlled flailing, and occasional bruises. Your arms hurt just watching. Someone laughs and calls you over. You try to decline, but nope. You're handed a flail and expected to contribute. You swing. It hits the ground with a sad little thud. Everyone pretends not to notice. You try again, slightly better, but your form? Ugly. Eventually, they shoo you away, either out of pity or fear you'll ruin their grain. You retreat toward the village with dignity trailing behind you. You pass the well again. A woman is fetching water. She smiles, nods, and asks if your hands always look that soft. You manage a joke about city life. She doesn't laugh. Instead, she offers a bit of advice. Rub them with nettle juice next time. Builds toughness. Or possibly rash. As you return to your hut, your legs feel heavy, your back is screaming, and your brain is mush. But the fire's glowing inside. The kids are laughing. Someone's cooking something that might include onions. And you? You survived your first full day of medieval work. Barely. You wake up the next morning unsure whether you actually slept or just temporarily blacked out from exhaustion. Your limbs are stiff, your neck feels like it was twisted into a pretzel, and your hands, well, your hands are no longer yours. They're raw, blistered, and crusted with the earthy residue of honest labor. Congratulations. You've officially earned your medieval badge of suffering. Today, the work continues, but not in the fields. It's time to rotate chores because the village runs on a delicate system of cooperation, obligation, and the thinly veiled threat of public shaming. You've been volunteered for a communal task. Latrine maintenance, oven tending. You hope it's oven tending. Please let it be. Oven tending, no such luck. You're on road repair duty. Yes, you heard that right. The muddy stretch that passes for a road into the village is more pothole than path, and someone's got to fix it. That someone is apparently you and 3 other unlucky souls. Together, you're armed with a cart full of gravel, a few shovels, and the eternal optimism that you'll finish before it rains. The road is little more than a trench in wet weather and a dust storm in dry. Medieval infrastructure wasn't designed for comfort or consistency. Stone roads are rare outside major cities. Most routes are just packed earth-worn smooth by generations of hooves, carts, and trudging feet. And when it rains, which it does, often, welcome to mud soup. You start filling holes one miserable shovelful at a time. The gravel is heavy. The shovel has a splintering handle, and the only thing holding your back together is willpower. You ask why this isn't the Lord's job. After all, it's his land. But the answer is clear. Lords don't fix roads. Peasants do, or the road doesn't get fixed at all. A man beside you hums a tune while working. You recognize it vaguely. It sounds like a lullaby and a dirge at the same time. He tells you it's for keeping rhythm. That's how most folks here keep sane. Songs, chants, little traditions passed down like tools. Some are silly, some are sacred. All are meant to make the day pass a little faster. You try humming along. It helps. Barely. Around midday, someone brings bread and pickled vegetables. You chew slowly, not because you want to savor it, but because your jaw hurts from yesterday. The bread is so dense you could probably patch the road with it. Still, it fills your belly, and that's what counts. While you eat, a traveling merchant passes by on a cart. He's wearing clothes too fine for a peasant, but not fine enough for nobility. He smells faintly of spices, and his horse is surprisingly well fed. Everyone pauses to eye the cart, hoping for a glimpse of something exotic. Dried figs? Maybe a comb with all its teeth? You, on the other hand, just stare at the wheels, silently praying they don't get stuck in the pothole you forgot to fix properly. The merchant stops, chats with your fellow workers, and offers to trade a small bundle of herbs for some dried beans. You watch the transaction unfold like it's an episode of medieval QVC. No coins are exchanged, just goods. Bartering is the name of the game in smaller villages. Coinage exists, sure, but you're more likely to pay with eggs, wool, or a favor. Someone will definitely collect later. He offers you a sniff of something wrapped in waxed cloth. Lavender, or maybe thyme. You inhale deeply like you're sampling perfume in a modern department store. It's the best thing you've smelled since arriving, possibly the only good thing. You hand it back, reluctantly. By late afternoon, your arms are jelly and your legs ache from squatting, lifting, hauling. You haven't even done anything heroic, just repetitive, grinding labor that makes your whole body question your life choices. Then rain. It begins as a mist, soft and innocent. A few villagers laugh, grateful for the coolness. Then it turns to drizzle, then sheets. The road turns back into soup and your morning's work, washed away like yesterday's sins. You stare at the growing puddles and consider crying, but you're too tired to produce tears. The man next to you shrugs and says, "That's life. No sarcasm, no bitterness, just a fact. In this world, nature always gets the last word." Historians still argue whether peasants viewed such setbacks with stoicism or despair. Some suggest a deeply rooted religious fatalism, believing suffering now earns you paradise later. Others think humor and community helped people endure. Either way, complaining too much just gets you labeled a whiner, and medieval Europe has zero patience for whiners. You trudge back to the village soaked and squelching with every step. A pig crosses your path seemingly mocking you. A goose follows and tries to bite your ankle. You dodge, barely. Geese here are not pets. They're security systems with feathers. Back at the hut, you strip off your wet layers. There's no closet, no fresh set of clothes. Just your same woolen garb, now wetter than your spirit. You sit by the fire, trying to dry out, while someone else stirs yet another pot of pottage. You don't even ask what's in it anymore. The answer is always, what we had. As you warm your hands, a boy bursts in shouting about someone falling from a ladder. You look up, halfway hoping it's a ladder tall enough to reach the concept of modern medicine. Spoiler, it's not. The injured man is dragged in groaning, his leg bent at a worrisome angle. A local healer is summoned, a stout woman with hands like tree bark and a pouch full of dried weeds. She inspects the leg, mutters a few prayers, and sets the bone with a snap, loud, enough to silence the room. The man faints. You almost join him. She applies a poultice of ground herbs and honey, wraps it in linen and warns everyone not to move him. If he walks too soon, it'll never heal straight. Then she asks if anyone's seen her chicken. No one has. She leaves with the authority of someone who knows exactly where her boundaries begin and end. Medical care in medieval Europe is a fascinating mix of folk knowledge, religious superstition, and trial-by-error bravery. Sometimes it works, like honey, which is actually antibacterial. Other times, it's leeches and a firm belief in humors. You try not to think about it. As night falls, someone plays a bone flute by the fire. Not metaphorical, an actual flute, made from actual bone. The music is eerie and beautiful, and you lie back on your straw bedding, damp, sore, and surrounded by the low murmurs of tired people. You've only been here 2 days. You already feel like you've aged 5 years. You're jolted awake by a rooster with zero respect for human suffering. His crow echoes across the village like a personal insult. You sit up, your spine clicking like a creaky gate, and immediately regret moving. Every joint protests, and your muscles feel like they've been individually cursed by a very petty sorcerer. But today isn't a field day, or a road day. No, today, you're going to the manor, the big house on the hill that belongs to the lord of the land. You were invited to assist with some labor, and when a medieval lord invites you to do something, you say yes, with a smile, or you mysteriously stop getting firewood and find your rent doubled. You hike toward the manor along a path that turns from dirt to cobbled stone. The manor itself isn't a castle, but it's the closest thing around. Stone walls, tall timber, beams, a few decorative carvings that might be lions or just badly done goats. It's impressive in the way a large refrigerator would seem impressive if you'd only ever seen a cooler. You're met at the gate by a servant with a tight bun and a tighter expression. She eyes you like she's assessing your threat level, which, let's be honest, is somewhere between mild inconvenience and fungus. You're assigned to the outer grounds helping the gardeners. And by gardeners, we mean 3, men and a boy trying to convince a hedge to stop looking like it's lost a fight with a goat. You pick up a shears. It's dull. Everything's dull. You snip aimlessly, pretending you know what a well-maintained hedge is supposed to look like. One of the gardeners mutters about topiary. You nod sagely. Topiary? Sure. Love those. Definitely not just a word you learned 30 seconds ago. While trimming, you glance around at the estate. Chickens in neat pens, a small vineyard in the distance, flower beds blooming with something distinctly not cabbage. It's the closest thing to luxury you've seen here. But make no mistake, this is no utopia. Behind the stone, it still smells faintly of smoke, sweat, and something suspiciously like goat urine. After an hour of clipping, you're moved indoors. To clean, which you assume means sweeping. Nope, it means scrubbing the rushes. Medieval. Flooring, rushes, straw, herbs, and whatever fell into it over the last few months. In noble homes, the floors were freshened with a new layer of rushes over the old ones. Occasionally, someone would remove the full pile and start clean. Today, it's your turn to do just that. You peel up layers of trampled greenery mixed with ash, bones, food scraps, and something you pray is just mold. The stench is a punch to the soul. You gag, tear up, and seriously consider just lying down and letting the floor claim you. The woman supervising you clicks her tongue. City folks, she mutters, despite you never claiming such a thing. You want to argue, but you're too busy trying not to inhale mouse droppings. Still, here's your mainstream fact of the day. Wealthy medieval homes did occasionally replace their floor rushes and added herbs like lavender, mint, or thyme to mask the stench. It worked. Kind of. But no amount of mint makes up for months of human traffic and animal visitors. You're handed a small rake and told to keep going. As you rake through the mess, you unearth something hard. A spoon, a wooden die, half a rat, the full medieval experience. You're living the dream. A very damp, rat-adjacent dream. After cleaning the rushes, you're taken to help in the kitchen. You sigh with relief. Maybe you'll get to cook something. Nope. You're cleaning fish. Eels, to be specific. Slimy, snake-like, very much alive. Eels. They're wriggling in a bucket like they know what's coming. You're handed a knife and given a tutorial that involves grabbing, slicing, and not thinking too hard about what's squirming in your hand. You try, you fail. The eel escapes. Twice. Eventually, you manage to pin one down and perform the task badly. You're not proud, but you're also not hungry anymore. Someone laughs and offers you a slice of cooked eel from earlier. It tastes surprisingly fine. Oily, but fine. You're not sure if that's hunger talking or your taste buds giving up. Eel, by the way, was a popular dish. Easy to farm in ponds. Not considered meat by religious standards, so fine for Lent. And when preserved in jelly or smoked, it lasted. Longer than most marriages. Your next job? Carrying firewood. Upstairs, downstairs, then upstairs again because someone changed their mind. By the fourth trip, you understand why every medieval person looks like they're permanently scowling. They're too tired to smile. Eventually, you end up in the Great Hall. There's a feast being prepared, though it's not for you. You're setting benches, placing trenchers, those flat, hard bread plates, and avoiding eye contact with the squire who keeps snapping orders like he's royalty. He's not, but he knows someone who is, and that's apparently enough to yell at anyone. Breathing too loud. One of the cooks sneaks you a plum. You almost cry. It's the first fruit you've seen in days. You savor it, sweet and juicy and probably crawling with unseen microbes. You don't care. Then, out of nowhere, someone drops a tidbit. You know the Lord's cousin? Died from bad cheese. Everyone nods like that's normal. Because it is. Cheese could kill you, especially when made without proper sanitation or storage. But hey, at least it wasn't eel. There's one last job. Polishing the armor. Actual chainmail. You think it's exciting until your hands are blackened with grime and your fingers are cramping. Armor's heavy, oily, and full of tiny links that seem to actively resist cleaning. Historians still argue whether lords wore chainmail regularly or only during conflict. What they agree on? It was high maintenance, which is your life now. Finally, as dusk settles, you're dismissed. No payment, no thanks, just a nod and a vague, good work. You stumble back to the village carrying the scent of fish guts, stale herbs, and defeat. As you pass the village well, someone asks how it went. You mumble, I miss the road work. They laugh, not with you, at you. You crawl into your straw, bed and stare at the ceiling. You've scrubbed rushes, cleaned eels, dodged geese, and almost bonded with a hedge, and the worst part? You still have to do it all over again tomorrow. You wake to the sound of coughing. Not yours this time, which is a small miracle. It's your neighbor hacking like he's trying to expel his entire lung collection. The sound is wet, rattling, and goes on for minutes. You try not to listen, but in a one-room hut where privacy is a fantasy, it's impossible. You shuffle to the fire pit and add a log, hoping it'll chase away the damp that seeps into everything. Your nose is stuffy, your throat dry. You wonder, not for the first time, if you're getting sick. Again. But there's no time to dwell on that. You have to make your way to market day. Now don't get too excited. This isn't a bustling fair with fanfare and fire breathers. It's more like a patch of trampled earth where people yell at each other over onions. But compared to the fields, it's practically Vegas. You're tasked with bringing a small basket of turnips to trade. Turnips. Nature's cruel joke. You trudge into the village square, which today is more crowded than usual. There's a palpable energy in the air. An odd mix of desperation and mild curiosity. Stalls are slapped together with whatever wood and cloth people could scrounge up. One is selling wool, another leather shoes that definitely weren't made to match, and a third is just a guy yelling, "Rabbits, freshish rabbits." He looks like someone who hasn't slept in a week, and based on the smell, neither have the rabbits. You lay out your sad little turnips and hope someone feels generous. A woman eyes them skeptically, then offers you a small wedge of cheese in return. It's lumpy, smells vaguely of regret, but it's food. You take it. Trade here isn't just commerce, it's survival theater. And it's bartering almost always. Coin is rare unless you're near a larger town. People trade nails for eggs, soap for socks, stories for silence. You overhear someone trying to swap a comb for a chicken. The chicken is unimpressed. You try to move through the market without stepping on anything alive. A dog nips at your heels. A child runs past trailing a rag doll. Someone sneezes on you. You flinch. And then, in the middle of this chaotic little carnival, something fascinating. A traveling entertainer. He's juggling. Badly. But it's mesmerizing because no one in your village does this. He wears bright colors, bells on his shoes, and has an expression that screams, "I make children laugh and adults nervous." He's also telling riddles between tosses. You only catch one. Alive without breath, as cold as death. Never thirsty, ever drinking. All in male, never clinking. You stare blankly. Someone whispers, "Fish." You nod slowly. That kind of makes sense? The jester's not just here to entertain. He's listening, watching. Entertainers in medieval Europe were often informal news carriers, gossip spreaders, and sometimes spies. It was a dangerous gig with unpredictable pay, unless you were hired by a noble. Most weren't. Most wandered, performing for bread and scraps. You walk past a stall selling remedies. A wrinkled woman offers you something for your cough. It's a brown vial with floating mystery herbs. She says it'll cure lung rot, bile imbalance, and general sorrow. That's one product covering all the bases. You pass. Just then a bell clangs. Everyone goes quiet. A man is being dragged to a wooden post. He's tied up. Someone's yelling about theft. 2 loaves of bread and a string of dried meat. The crowd murmurs. You recognize the accused. He's a father of 4. One child had a swollen stomach and thinning hair. The punishment? The stocks. He's locked in, hands and head through holes in a wooden frame. Someone throws a clod of dirt. Another, an overripe apple. You don't join in. You just stare. Historians still argue whether public shaming served as true deterrent or just collective venting. But in villages like this, it was both justice and entertainment. Harsh, immediate, and inescapable. You feel sick. Not just from the stocks, but from the cold. The market breeze has teeth, and you didn't bring enough. Layers, again, someone bumps into you. You stumble, turn, and suddenly there's a hand on your shoulder. A friar, round, red-faced, and grinning like he knows something you don't. He asks if you've repented today. You say, "Probably not enough." He laughs like you told a great joke and hands you a wooden token carved with a cross. "For your soul," he says. Then he adds, "And your pocket," holding out his hand expectantly. You dig into your belt pouch. 1 bent coin and a bead. He takes the bead. Your soul apparently is worth slightly less than a meal. Religion saturates every corner of life here. There's a church in your village, barely larger than a modern tool shed, but it's the heart of everything. Births, marriages, confessions, burials. The calendar is littered with saint days and fasting periods. And sins. Oh, there are so many. Some you didn't even know were sins. Whistling at night? Questionable. Missing church? Risky. Thinking bad thoughts during Lent? Eternity in fire, but you're still here, still standing. Even if your boots have holes and your stomach's growling, on your way out of the market you pass the pig cart. Again. Still squealing. You swear it's following you. Back at the hut, you lay out your trade haul, a wedge of cheese, a knotted piece of string. Why did you accept that? And half a plum someone didn't want. You call it a win. Later that evening, the cough returns. Yours now. You huddle near the fire, wrapped in a blanket that smells faintly of sheep and despair. Someone starts singing a slow tune. A lullaby? A lament? Hard to tell. You close your eyes, tired beyond tired, and wonder how anyone survived to adulthood here. You've been in medieval Europe less than a week, and you're already negotiating with the turnips. You're woken by a church bell, not the gentle, distant kind. No, this one is loud, insistent, and clearly rung by someone who thinks sleep is a sin. It's Sunday, which means, if your math is right, and you're pretty sure it isn't, you've now survived a full week in medieval Europe. Barely. Congratulations. Today is church day and everyone goes. Not because they want to, necessarily, but because skipping is a social death sentence. The priest knows, the neighbors know, and they will talk. So you drag your aching body out of bed, toss some water on your face, and try to smooth down your hair, which currently resembles straw left out in a hurricane. You follow the slow parade of villagers to the chapel. It's tiny, maybe 12 pews, if you can call them that, and made of rough stone and dark wood. There are no stained glass windows here, just narrow slits that barely let in light. It's cold, even with the place full of warm bodies. Cold and damp and echoing with whispers. You squeeze into a spot near the back, trying to look inconspicuous, which is hard when your stomach growls loud enough to be mistaken for a demonic presence. The priest enters. He's older than God, with a back that's seen better centuries. He begins the service in Latin and you, like everyone else, understand approximately none of it. You try to look reverent while mentally listing the things you'd rather be doing. Napping, eating, walking off a cliff. Here's your mainstream fact for today. The medieval Mass was conducted in Latin, even though most peasants didn't speak or understand it. It was less about participation and more about obedience, rhythm, and ritual. You kneel when others kneel, stand when they stand, and try not to fall asleep during the homily, which feels like a bedtime story with no end. You catch a few words here and there. Repent, sinners, fire, comforting stuff. Then comes the collection plate, or more accurately, the rough cloth bag. You pretend to fumble in your pouch and drop in a small button. Is that morally questionable? Probably. But it's not like anyone accepts buttons as currency, at least not yet. After Mass, the real action begins. Socializing. You shuffle outside with the rest of the congregation and immediately get cornered by old Elric, who smells like pickled onions and suspicion. He tells you about a strange light he saw in the sky last night. Witchcraft, he mutters. Or stars. Hard to say. You nod solemnly. Everything's witchcraft until proven otherwise. And that brings us to the quirky tidbit of the day. Medieval people often blamed unexplained events, like illness, strange weather, or bad crops, on magic, or divine punishment. One sneeze too many and your neighbor might be digging a pit for your trial by water. You try to escape Elric's clutches but run into the miller's wife, who wants to know why you haven't married yet. Time's wasting, she says, eyeing. You like a slab of mutton? You mumble something about waiting for a sign and she nods. The Lord does work in mysterious ways. You finally retreat to the edge of the village green where a small group has gathered around a traveling monk. He's barefoot, wild-eyed, and speaking with fervor about the end times. You don't catch all of it, but there's something about boils, famine, and beasts rising from the sea. Comforting. Historians still argue whether such apocalyptic preaching was common or just more noticeable when it happened. But when it did, it caused panic. People sold belongings, left villages, even joined cult-like groups. You just want lunch. Speaking of which, you head home for your humble Sunday meal. Stale bread and weak broth. It's supposed to be a day of rest, and by medieval standards, that means only minor back-breaking labor. You sweep the hut, check for lice, still there, and patch your left sock with thread you swiped from the market. The rest of the day drips by slowly. Children run through the mud, shrieking like goblins. A dog chases a chicken, then gets distracted by a butterfly. You spot the local reeve, kind of like a village manager, taking notes on a wooden board. He doesn't smile. You're not sure he has the facial muscles for it. In the evening, a small group gathers around a fire in the center of the village. It's story time. Not a scheduled event, just something people drift toward, like moths to a slightly judgmental flame. An elder begins to speak, his voice gravelly and rhythmic. He tells a tale about a knight and a dragon, but somehow the dragon ends up becoming a local tax collector. The crowd laughs. You settle in, letting the smoke drift over you. The stars prick the sky. And for a moment, despite the lice, the hunger, and the lingering smell of pickled Elric, you feel peaceful. Someone passes around a clay jug. You take a sip. It's ale. Weak, warm, but oddly comforting. You sip again, and again. Then someone sings. It's a low, winding melody. Not quite happy, not quite sad, just medieval. It fills the air like fog, curling into your bones, reminding you that this world, brutal, beautiful, backwards, is still deeply, stubbornly human. You close your eyes. For once, the pain in your knees dulls. The itch on your scalp fades. You stop thinking about the pigs. You just listen. Because sometimes, even in a time where comfort is a luxury and survival is a miracle, there's music, there's laughter, there's warmth. And in this world of fire, dirt, and faith, those tiny moments are everything. You're up before the sun, not because you're full of energy or ambition, but because something scurried across your leg and jolted you out of sleep with a full-body shiver. Possibly a rat, possibly worse. You're too afraid to check. Outside, the village is still cloaked in shadows. A few dim lanterns flicker in windows, and the rooster, who somehow always crows half an hour too early, is already at it, clearly, thriving on your suffering. You rub your eyes, put on your stiff woolen tunic, and brace yourself. Today's task, tending the Lord's land. Yep, you don't actually own the land you work. It belongs to the local noble, and as a peasant or serf, you're obligated to give a chunk of your time and harvest to him in exchange for the privilege of not being homeless. This is the manorial system. Fun, right? So you grab your hoe and start the long walk to the domain, the portion of land kept by the Lord for his own use. It's bigger, better tended, and has the good pigs. On your way, you pass others making the same pilgrimage. No one talks much. The mood is somewhere between mild dread and why is my back already sore? The sun begins to rise, spilling gold across the fields. It should be beautiful, and maybe it is. But your socks are wet, you stepped in something questionable, and there's a suspicious itch on your ankle that wasn't there yesterday. Welcome to agrarian bliss. The work begins immediately. You're set to hoeing rows of rocky, ungrateful soil. The tools are heavy, the handle's splintered, and within minutes your arms feel like boiled noodles. You're not alone. There's a group of women pulling weeds nearby, and 2 boys hauling baskets of manure. They look too young to be doing this. You wonder how old you were when you started. Probably the same. Here's your historical nugget of the day. Most medieval peasants worked from sunrise to sunset during the agricultural seasons, especially spring and fall, performing repetitive, exhausting labor on land they didn't own. But just as your mind begins to drift into numbness, something interesting happens. The reeve arrives holding a list. He's followed by a knight in partial armor, the chainmail glinting in the light like a disco ball of dread. They start calling. Out names, yours is one of them. You freeze. Apparently, the local lord needs help constructing something on his estate, a new fence or maybe a pig enclosure depending on how important he feels today. You're one of the chosen. Yay? You're marched. Okay. Strongly encouraged. To the manor grounds where you get your first good look at noble life. It's a different world. The manor house itself is made of stone, 2 stories tall with glass windows. Glass. You squint at them like you're witnessing a miracle. A servant scurries past with a tray of apples and cheese. You haven't seen an apple in weeks or a tray. You consider theft. You reconsider. Guards are watching. The noble himself isn't present, which is a blessing. But his steward is a thin, sharp-faced man who looks like he's never smiled and probably punishes bread for being too soft. He tells you to carry planks and hammer stakes. You do, while daydreaming about bread that doesn't double as a bludgeoning weapon. As you work, you hear 2 servants whispering about the noble's daughter. Apparently she's being married off to a merchant's son from a neighboring shire, for a dowry of 12 sheep and a gold cup, one says. And she hates him. You nod quietly. Medieval love stories are rarely romantic. They're more like livestock mergers with better outfits. That brings us to today's quirky tidbit. Marriages among the nobility were often arranged as political or economic transactions, sometimes when the children involved were still toddlers. Meanwhile, peasants had a bit more choice, though even that came with strings. You finish the fence, or at least you're part of it, and you're dismissed just in time for a midday meal. You get bread, predictably hard, a sliver of onion and some watery ale. It's not satisfying, but it's better than nothing. You sit with the other laborers under a patch of shade, listening to bees buzz, and one guy talk about how he saw a 2-headed calf once. It mooed in harmony, he claims. Historians still argue whether such animal deformities were seen as omens, natural oddities, or divine punishment. But back then, everything strange had meaning. You just hope the calf doesn't show up in your dreams. You're sent back to the fields for the afternoon shift. The sun is high now, beating down with all the mercy of an angry blacksmith. You're sweating in places you didn't know existed. A woman nearby collapses from exhaustion. Others rush to her aid, fanning her with aprons and offering sips of ale. She sits up pale but breathing. No one says anything, but the looks say it all. Please don't die. We can't afford to dig another grave this week. As the sun finally begins its slow descent, work winds down. You drag yourself home with every muscle in protest. Your hands are blistered, your shoulders on fire, and your brain somewhere in the vague vicinity of, why me? Back at your hut, you collapse onto the straw mat and try to scrape the dirt from your skin. You're too tired to eat, too tired to speak. You just lie there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the crackling of the fire and the distant hoot of an owl. A few hours later, you're jolted awake by something thudding against the wall. Probably the pig again, or a very ambitious frog. You don't care. You roll over, pull the blanket tighter, and whisper to no one, I survived another day, which, in medieval Europe, is practically a miracle. Your eyes open to a dim, gray sky, and your first thought is not a hopeful one. It's raining. Not a gentle sprinkle, but a steady, relentless drizzle that soaks the earth and your mood in equal measure. Your roof, made from thatch and optimism, leaks in two places. One of those places is directly above your bed. You wake up with a wet ear, which is somehow worse than waking up with a wet sock. You sigh, wring out your blanket, and trudge outside. Today is market day. Once a week, the village holds a small market near the green, and for a few precious hours, it's your chance to trade, gossip, and maybe get your hands on something edible that hasn't been boiled beyond recognition. Of course, the rain threatens to ruin it all. You throw a scratchy wool cloak over your shoulders and squelch your way down the muddy path. By the time you arrive, your feet are soaked, and your temper is fraying like a badly woven basket. Still, there's life here. Stalls pop up like mushrooms, wooden, boards balanced on barrels, cloth canopies sagging under the weight of rainwater. You catch the scent of roasted onions and, could it be, a bit of salted pork. Your stomach growls like it's preparing to sue for neglect. You approach a vendor and eye the goods. A few wilted vegetables, 2 dented pewter cups, a handful of cracked eggs, and, shockingly, a bit of honeycomb. You consider trading the knife you've carried for weeks, but as you reach for it, someone else snatches the honey. You both make awkward eye contact. Then he walks off, victorious. You hope he drops it in the mud. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Local markets in medieval villages were often the center of community life, where trade was informal, mostly barter-based, and controlled by the local lord or church. They might even take a cut of the profits. Fun. You find a corner with a few other peasants displaying their wares. Someone's offering turnips, another has goat milk, and you've got 3 bundles of dried herbs and a nearly empty bottle of vinegar. Not exactly a seller's dream, but it's something. A woman with 3 kids eyes the vinegar. She offers you half a wheel of hard cheese. You agree. Her kids look mildly impressed. You sit for a moment just watching the flow of people. There's the blacksmith's apprentice lugging horseshoes. A traveling juggler drops 3 apples, curses, and quickly pivots into a comedy act. A friar strolls by humming something tuneless, asking for alms. You toss him a dried leaf out of habit. He doesn't laugh. Suddenly, there's shouting. 2 men are arguing near the grain sacks. One accuses the other of watering down ale. The other responds with an insult about goats and hygiene. A crowd gathers. You crane your neck. This is the most excitement you've had in a week. Then a constable arrives. Not the king's guard or anything grand. Just a local enforcer in a tattered tabard and a stick that looks more ceremonial than effective. He separates the men, hands out 2 warnings, and confiscates the ale in question. Later, you'll see him drinking it under a tree. And now, your quirky tidbit of the day. Medieval markets often had their own temporary justice systems, with the reeve or constable acting as judge, jury, and occasional ale thief. Disputes were common, and fines were usually paid on the spot, or in goods. The rain slows just enough for some music to start up. A young man with a battered lute strums a few chords. A girl sings. Her voice is soft and unsure, but the tune is sweet. A circle forms. People begin to clap in time. For a moment, the mood shifts. Then the butcher slips in the mud and lands face first in a puddle, taking his sausage cart with him. The crowd bursts into laughter. Even you chuckle, which is rare these days. The sausage is unsalvageable. The butcher looks like he's about to cry. 2 children try to rescue a particularly long one that's floated toward the pig pen. By late afternoon, the stalls begin to pack up. You count your gains. A half wheel of cheese, a thimble-sized piece of soap, and a carrot so misshapen it resembles a human toe. Not exactly a windfall, but enough for dinner. Maybe. As you turn to leave, you notice a cloaked figure with a covered cart. It's unusual. Most vendors display their goods proudly. This one's hidden. You edge closer. He notices and lifts the corner of the cloth. Inside, books. You blink. Actual books. 3 of them. Real pages. Ink. One has a colored illustration of a saint with wild, blazing eyes. You glance up, wide-eyed. 2. Expensive, he says flatly. You nod. Of course they are. But the fact that they're here in your tiny, wet, muddy world feels surreal, like a whisper from the future. Here's where the scholarly debate comes in. Historians still argue whether literacy among peasants was more widespread than previously believed, especially with the gradual increase in vernacular texts and religious instruction. You can barely read your own name, but just seeing those pages stirs something. Back home, you sit by the fire, gnawing the cheese and trying to soften the carrot in a pot of broth. The rain taps against the roof like a slow drum. You hum the tune the girl sang at the market. The smoke curls into the air. Despite the wet clothes, the sore feet, and the lost honeycomb, today wasn't terrible. You had music, laughter, even a glimpse of a world beyond yours. You wonder what's in those books. And for the first time since arriving in this muddy century, you find yourself wanting more than just survival. You want to learn. But first, you need dry socks. The morning starts with a chill, not the kind that makes you want to crawl back into your bed because you don't really have a choice, but the kind that makes every bone in your body groan in protest. You pull on your wet cloak from the day before and head outside, where the ground is still damp from last night's rain. The fog hangs low over the village like it's just waiting for you to take a wrong turn into a swamp. Today, you're working in the fields again, but not the Lord's land. No. Today you've been tasked with helping your neighbor, which in medieval Europe was a delicate dance of awkwardness and obligation. People help each other here, but it's always in a way that feels like a barter, even if it's unspoken. If you help someone today, they might help you tomorrow, or they might not. But either way, you've got to get through the work, and so do they. Your neighbor is an older woman named Agnes. She's lived in the village for as long as anyone can. Remember, she's bent like a dried branch and she moves slower than the wind, but she's sharp. She knows things. She's probably seen things, more than most people realize. And today, you're helping her weed her garden. Her garden isn't like anyone else's. It's a mix of herbs, vegetables, and some plants you can't even name. She insists that half of them have special powers, though you aren't sure what she means by that. You've heard the other villagers whisper about Agnes, something about her knowing cures and spells. It's one of those things. That doesn't really get confirmed, but no one talks about it in public. You've never asked. You stand at the edge of her garden, shovel in hand, looking at the wild assortment of plants. Some of them look ordinary. Onions, cabbage, a little bit of lettuce, but others look strange. Tall, thin stalks with flowers that seem to glow faintly, even in the dim morning light. There's a patch of something you think might be nightshade, though you aren't brave enough to confirm it. Agnes kneels beside you, her bony hands working in the earth like she's done it 1,000 times. Pull the weeds out by the root, she says in a rasping voice. But be careful with the valerian. It can be slippery. Valerian. You look around, your eyes scanning the sea of plants. She points to a patch that looks like ordinary grass and you reach for it. As soon as your fingers touch the stalks, you feel a strange buzzing, like a hum that goes right into your bones. You pull your hand back quickly, startled. Careful, Agnes warns, her eyes twinkling. That one's for sleep. Don't let the others see it. They'll think you're up to something. You hesitate, unsure whether she's joking or serious, but you keep working. You don't know why you keep listening to her. Maybe it's because she's one of the few people who seems to know anything about the world beyond the village. Maybe it's because deep down you're starting to think that surviving this time means learning a bit of the magic people whisper about. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Medieval people were very concerned with herbs, plants, and potions. Many believed plants had magical properties and could heal, curse, or even predict the future. Medical knowledge at the time was a mix of ancient wisdom, superstitions, and trial and error. You and Agnes work in silence for a while. The only sounds are the scrape of your shovel in the soil and the occasional soft grunt from her as she pulls up a stubborn root. Every now and then she mutters something under her breath, words you don't understand. The air is thick with the smell of wet earth mingled with the scent of fresh herbs. You can almost taste it. Finally, she sits back on her heels, wiping her hands on her apron. You've filled a small basket with weeds, and the garden looks slightly more organized now. Agnes smiles at your work, but there's something else behind her smile. Something knowing. You're learning, she says softly. That's the first step. You glance at her, unsure what she means. But before you can ask, she rises and moves toward her small cottage. The walls are crooked, the roof sagging in places, and there's a small chimney puffing out a thin trail of smoke. You follow her inside. It smells of dried herbs, old wood, and something faintly sweet, like honey or something more mysterious. She gestures for you to sit. On the table sits an odd collection of objects, a few old books, some dried flowers, and a small wooden box. Agnes picks up the box and opens it, revealing a collection of strange gleaming stones. Some are rough, others polished. You've never seen anything like them. She picks one up and holds it in the light. This one, she says. Her finger, tracing the stone, is for protection. If you're ever in danger, carry it with you. Not for a fight, mind you, but for protection. You nod slowly, unsure whether you're supposed to believe her or simply play along. But then she offers you one of the stones. You hesitate, but something about it draws you in. You take it, feeling its weight in your palm. It's smoother than you expected, and somehow it feels right. Maybe it's all in your head, or maybe it's the start of something else. Before you leave, she gives you a small pouch of dried herbs. For your stomach, she says. Not a cure, but it'll help. You thank her, grateful but still a little uneasy. As you step outside into the bright afternoon sun, you hold the stone in your hand and look at the village. The simple life, the backbreaking work, the whispers about magic. You don't know where any of this will lead, but you suspect that you're standing on the edge of something that could change everything. You don't know if Agnes is a healer or a witch. You don't know if she's right. But you also don't know how long you can keep surviving in a world where the only thing certain is that nothing is certain. And that might just be the most terrifying thought of all. The days blur together as the season begins to shift. You've now spent a few weeks in this village, long enough to settle into a rhythm, or at least to feel like you've adapted to the basics of survival. There are still moments where you wonder what's next, but right now you've got your hands full with the small, simple tasks that define life in medieval Europe. You wake early, trudge to the fields, return with barely enough to eat, and then, if you're lucky, you make it through the day without some sort of unexpected crisis. The weather has turned colder and the first signs of autumn are starting to creep in. The trees around the village are shedding their leaves, leaving the ground covered in a golden brown carpet. The sky, however, remains stubbornly gray, like it can't decide whether to rain or snow. It's the kind of weather that makes you want to stay in bed all day, but there's no such luxury. You're back to working with Agnes, only this time it's not in the garden. No, today you're going to help her gather firewood. She's decided that the chill of autumn requires an impressive stockpile to see through the coming winter, and she's enlisted you to help her. You're still getting used to the idea that these tasks, however mundane, are crucial to your survival. You and Agnes head out early, the air already crisp as you walk to the edge of the forest. Her house, nestled at the village's edge, is surrounded by trees that look like they've been standing for centuries, their trunks thick and gnarled. You can already hear the rustling of branches overhead, and the occasional snap of twigs as animals move in the underbrush. Agnes doesn't seem to mind the cold. She moves with purpose, her feet sure on the slippery ground, her hands never shaking. You're still trying to keep up, but there's something about the way she carries herself that makes you feel like a mere child in comparison. The forest is dense, but Agnes knows these woods like the back of her hand. She guides you to a small clearing and you get to work. You've brought a dull axe, which is fine for small branches, but not much else. Agnes, however, has a tool that looks like it came straight from a blacksmith's forge, a much heavier axe that seems to gleam even in the gray light. She swings it with ease, the blade biting into the bark with a satisfying thud. As you chop, the noise is strangely comforting. The rhythm of your strikes is steady, the sound of wood cracking under the weight of the axe, and the occasional grunt of effort as you lift a heavy log. It feels primal, like a connection to something older than the village, older than the church, older than even the king's law. But it's also a reminder of something else, that survival in this world, in this time, is a constant, grueling fight. No one here lives in comfort. No one gets a break from the cold, the hunger, or the endless work. You catch a glimpse of Agnes as she effortlessly wields her axe, her eyes focused on the task at hand. She looks older than she did when you first met her, the lines on her face, more pronounced now, but there's something fierce in her eyes, a determination to endure no matter what. Here's your mainstream historical fact. The medieval period was defined by harsh living conditions, particularly in the countryside. Survival required hard work in all seasons, with firewood being an essential part of preparing for the long winters. Felling trees and gathering firewood were common tasks, often shared among villagers as a communal effort. You pause for a moment, wiping sweat from your brow, despite the chill. There's a strange stillness in the forest now, the kind you only get when you've been working for a while and the silence falls like a blanket over everything. Then, out of nowhere, Agnes speaks. "You're thinking too much," she says, her voice raspy. "It's simple here. You do the work. You keep your head down. You survive. No more, no less." You stare at her, surprised by the bluntness of her words. She's not wrong, but you can't shake the feeling that there's more to life than just survival. There has to be, doesn't there? Somewhere out there, beyond this village and its constant grind, there must be something more. You can't just live like this forever. Cutting wood, tilling soil, scraping by. You've caught glimpses of the world beyond, of people in far-off cities, of stories that feel so distant they might as well be myths. But Agnes isn't about to entertain your daydreams. She's practical, rooted in the earth in a way that makes your thoughts feel foreign. She hands you another log to carry and you nod, knowing she's right. For now, all you can do is what's in front of you. Cut the wood, carry the load, live day by day. Later that afternoon, as the pile of firewood grows taller, Agnes stops and wipes her hands on her apron. She gazes out into the forest, her eyes narrowing as if searching for something. "You'll learn soon enough," she says softly, "that there's a difference between surviving and living. You don't know how to respond." You look down at the log in your hands, feeling the weight of it. Maybe that's the truth. Maybe this is all anyone really does here. They just survive. And yet you can't shake the thought that somewhere, out there, there's a different way. A way that doesn't involve endless hours of backbreaking labor. A way that doesn't feel like you're fighting the world every single day. But for now you're stuck in the woods with Agnes, chopping firewood for the coming winter. The cold winds pick up again, and the sound of snapping branches fills the air. You wonder how long you can keep this up, and you wonder if anyone else in the world is asking the same question. The next few days feel like one long stretch of gray. Winter is coming, and it's not a gentle slide into colder weather, but a full-on assault of wind and rain that seems to last forever. The village is preparing for it in the usual way, stocking up on food, securing the roofs, and hoping that the crops you worked so hard to plant earlier in the year will last. The cold has a way of creeping into every corner of life, even though you try to stay warm. You spend most of your days indoors now, huddled around a fire with the other villagers. They're quiet people, not given to much conversation. There's a certain camaraderie here, born of shared hardship, but also a noticeable distance. People help each other, but it's never out of kindness alone. It's about necessity, about making sure that no one is left without enough to survive the winter. Agnes is still a constant in your life, a figure who seems to remain as rooted as the trees she tends to. She's always there, with her strange collection of herbs, her cryptic advice, and her occasional offerings of dried leaves or odd stones. You've started carrying the stone she gave you. It feels like an anchor, even if you're not sure it has any real power. The cold gnaws at you, the firelight flickering weakly against the heavy stone walls of the house. But the stone stays warm in your pocket, and somehow it feels like it's all you can rely on now. You find yourself wandering through the village one morning, looking for something to distract yourself. There's a palpable tension in the air, the kind of quiet that makes you wonder if the village is bracing for something you don't understand. You pass a few of the villagers as you make your way through the narrow streets, each of them wrapped in thick cloaks, their heads bent against the wind. You don't know most of their names, but there's a sort of understanding between you. You're all just here, surviving. You reach the center of the village where the town square sits, empty except for a few carts and a well. The well has become a sort of meeting point for villagers. Some come to fetch water while others simply stand around chatting in low voices. You pause near the well, not quite sure what to do with yourself. That's when you see him, the stranger. He's tall, dressed in a heavy cloak, and he's clearly not from around here. His features are sharp, his eyes an unsettling shade of pale blue, and he carries himself with a quiet confidence that stands out against the backdrop of the hunched, cold villagers. He's not a threat, not yet, but there's something in the way he moves that makes you uneasy. He doesn't fit the rhythm of this place. You've lived here long enough to know what the rhythm is. Slow, deliberate, sometimes painstaking. This man moves like he's from a different world entirely. He pauses near the well, glancing around as though searching for something, or someone. There's a flicker of recognition in his eyes when he spots you, though it's gone as quickly as it appeared. He tilts his head, studying you for a moment, and you feel a shiver run down your spine. "Lost?" he asks, his voice strangely smooth, like it doesn't quite belong here. You glance around, half expecting someone to have appeared beside you. "No," you reply cautiously, "just passing through." He smirks, as if he knows something you don't. "Passing through?" he repeats. "You don't look like you're passing through. You look like you're trying to figure out how to survive." You bristle at the comment, but it's hard to argue with him. The truth is, you've been thinking a lot about survival. Recently, about how long you can keep scraping by in a place like this. The winters here are long and the work never seems to stop. No one really lives here. They just exist as if surviving the next day is all that matters. Maybe I am, you say slowly. The man watches you for another moment, then nods, as if he's satisfied with something. You'll need more than just hard work to get through. You'll need something else, he adds cryptically. I'll be around. And just like that, he walks away, leaving you with more questions than answers. You watch him disappear down the road, wondering who he really is and why he's here. He doesn't seem like a traveler. He seems like someone with a purpose, and that's not something you're used to seeing around here. You turn back toward the center of the village, your thoughts swirling. For the first time since you've arrived, you feel something shift in the air, something that doesn't quite belong. The village is a place where nothing changes, where nothing happens. But that man, he doesn't belong here. And maybe, just maybe, his presence means something is about to. Here's your quirky tidbit. Medieval villages were often insular and tightly knit, but strangers who appeared in town could stir up suspicion and curiosity. Whether they were travelers, traders, or outsiders with an agenda, their arrival often signified a change. Whether that change was good or bad, no one could ever predict. As the day wears on, you can't shake the feeling that something is coming. Something that could change the course of your life or the entire village's future. Maybe it's just your imagination, or maybe it's the uncertainty of living in such a volatile time, but you have a sense that the stranger is more than just a passing figure. He's here for a reason. And in a place like this, with its constant struggle for survival, you know that anything, absolutely anything, could happen. You don't know whether to be wary or hopeful, but whatever the stranger's purpose is, you're certain that it's somehow linked to your own survival. And for the first time since arriving, you find yourself wondering, maybe, just maybe, surviving here might be about more than just the work. Maybe it's about finding something or someone that can change the game entirely. The cold winds howl as you make your way back to the house, but the presence of the stranger lingers in your mind. You can't stop thinking about what he said. You'll need more than just hard work to get through it. You'll need something else. It wasn't just a passing comment. The words echo in your head, turning over and over like a riddle you can't quite solve. What does he mean? The village is, as usual, quiet, but there's something about this moment that feels different. You feel the weight of it press down on you as you move through the narrow, winding streets. The smell of wet earth hangs in the air, a sign of the rain that has been pouring steadily for days. The houses around you are hunched under their thatched roofs, their chimneys puffing out thin curls of smoke. But even the familiar sight of these homes does little to comfort you now. Your thoughts are a mix of curiosity and unease, and you find yourself wondering about the stranger's motives. Why did he speak to you? He could have easily ignored you and passed by, but instead he stopped and offered you advice that didn't seem to be just about surviving the winter. You've been in this village for a while now, and you've learned to survive. But surviving, you've come to realize, is not the same as living. The work here is endless, and the days blur together in a haze of toil. You've seen enough to know that no one gets rich in a village like this. No one thrives, really. They just exist, doing what they can to make it to the next day. But is that all there is? Is that all you can expect? As you walk back to the house, you notice something odd. There's a light flickering in the distance coming from the small chapel at the edge of the village. It's strange because no one ever goes there unless it's for a special occasion. The villagers have their own routines. Hard work, feasts, celebrations. But the chapel is more of a formality than a place of real gathering. You hesitate for a moment, but then the pull of curiosity wins out. Maybe you'll find something out about the stranger there. Maybe he's involved with the chapel somehow. You make your way toward the flickering light, the rain falling harder now, drenching your cloak as you push forward. The chapel looms ahead, dark and foreboding in the shadows of the trees. You can hear the faint sound of murmurs coming from inside, voices, but not the usual prayer or hymn you'd expect. These voices are low, urgent. When you reach the door, it creaks open as if it's been waiting for you. You slip inside, and the flickering light is revealed to be a single candle, casting long shadows across the stone walls. The room is smaller than you remember, its stone floor cold beneath your feet. There are no pews, just a handful of villagers gathered around a strange figure in the center. It's him, the stranger. He stands at the front of the room, his back to you, speaking in a low voice to the villagers. His tone is intense, serious, unlike the casual air he had when he spoke to you earlier. There's something in the way he moves, a quiet power that's hard to ignore. He's not just a passerby. He's not just some traveler who stumbled into town. He's part of something. You watch for a moment, trying not to make any noise, but there's no mistaking it now. The villagers are listening to him, hanging on his every word. They don't just see him as an outsider anymore. They see him as someone who knows something, someone with answers. As you stand in the shadows trying to make sense of what's happening, one of the villagers turns. It's Agnes. Her face is tense, her brows furrowed in concentration as she listens to the stranger. She doesn't seem surprised by his presence, but you're almost certain she didn't expect to see him in the chapel either. There's a flicker of recognition in her eyes when she spots you, but she quickly looks away, returning her focus to the stranger. You're not sure what to do. Part of you wants to leave. This feels too strange, too out of place. But the other part of you feels drawn in, a sense of curiosity you can't shake. You need to understand what's going on here. You need to understand why he's here and what his presence means for the village and for you. Before you can make up your mind, the stranger turns around, his piercing blue eyes locking onto yours. You freeze. He doesn't say anything at first, but his gaze is steady, almost as if he's waiting for you to make the next move. Then, to your surprise, he smiles. It's not a friendly smile, but a knowing one. A smile that tells you he's figured something out about you, that he knows something you don't. "Come in," he says softly, his voice almost a whisper, yet somehow carrying across the room. "I've been expecting you." His words send a shiver down your spine. You hesitate for only a second before stepping forward. What other choice do you have? The questions swirling in your mind can't be ignored any longer. It feels like this is the moment where things will change. Like this is the turning point you didn't realize you were waiting for. As you step into the dim light of the chapel, you feel a strange weight settle over you. The atmosphere is thick with anticipation, like the calm before a storm. The villagers are silent now, their eyes on you as you walk toward the stranger, and you can't help but wonder, what exactly is it that he wants from you? Here's your open scholarly debate phrase. Historians still argue whether travelers like this stranger were often seen as harbingers of change or simply disruptors of the village's fragile order. Some view them as agents of progress, while others regard them with suspicion, as symbols of a world beyond their control. The stranger's eyes never leave yours as you approach, and you realize that whatever happens next will shape the rest of your time here. And for better or worse, you're already too far in to back out now. You stand there in the middle of the chapel with the stranger's eyes locked onto yours. It's a moment suspended in time, heavy with the weight of questions you don't even know how to ask. The villagers are still, all of them staring at you now. You can almost feel the silent expectation in the room, like they're all waiting for you to speak, to make the first move, but you don't know what to say. The stranger smiles again, that same knowing smile, as if he understands exactly what you're feeling. And then, with a gesture that's almost casual, he beckons you forward, urging you closer. You hesitate. There's a strange power in his presence, something magnetic that pulls you in despite every instinct telling you to turn and leave. But you can't. Not now. Not after everything that's happened. You've been searching for answers, for something that would make all this make sense, and here it is standing in front of you, wrapped in mystery. You step forward, your heart racing in your chest. The air in the chapel feels thicker now. The shadows longer. The flickering candlelight dances across the stone walls, casting an eerie glow over the faces of the villagers. Their eyes are all on you, as if this moment is the beginning of something much larger than just a stranger in a village. When you reach the center of the room, the stranger steps aside, making space for you. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't need to. His presence alone speaks volumes, as if the very fact that you've stepped into this circle means something important, something unspoken, but understood. For a long moment, the two of you just stand there in silence, the tension almost palpable. You can hear your own breathing, feel the weight of all the eyes on you, and for a fleeting second you wonder if you've made a mistake, if this was the wrong path to take. But it's too late now. You've stepped into this strange web, and there's no turning back. Finally, the stranger speaks, his voice low and smooth, like it's meant only for you, even though the room is still silent. "You're wondering why I'm here," he says. "And you're wondering why I singled you out?" His voice doesn't carry any malice, just a kind of quiet certainty. "It's because you're different. You've been trying to survive, but there's more to it than that. You don't just want to survive, you want to know why. And that's why you're here." His words hit you harder than you expected, and for a moment, Your breath catches in your throat. You didn't think anyone would understand. You didn't think anyone could see past the cold hard work of just getting by. But somehow he has. Somehow he knows what you've been struggling with. The gnawing feeling that this life, this endless cycle of work and survival, is not all there is. You've seen the way things work here. The stranger continues, his gaze never leaving yours. The villagers are resigned to their fate. They've given up questioning. They've accepted the way things are. But you, he pauses, as if weighing his words carefully. You haven't. You're still searching for something more. And that's why you're different. And that's why you're here. His words are heavy and they settle over you like a cloak. You feel a mixture of confusion, relief, and something else you can't quite place. It's as if he's peeled back a layer of your mind, one you didn't know was there, and now everything feels exposed. He steps closer, lowering his voice just enough so that only you can hear. I can help you find what you're looking for, he says, but you have to be willing to leave behind everything you know. You'll have to trust me. You'll have to trust that what you're searching for is not just about surviving, it's about discovering something far beyond this village, beyond the mundane. You'll have to embrace the unknown and let go of the fear that keeps you tied to this place. You swallow hard, unsure how to respond. The words he's speaking are so far beyond anything you've ever imagined for yourself. Leave everything behind. You've spent so much time just trying to stay alive, trying to figure out how to make it through the day. The thought of leaving, that all behind, of stepping into the unknown with someone you barely know, is both terrifying and oddly enticing. The room is silent except for the crackling of the fire, the warmth of it flickering weakly in the corner. You can feel the eyes of the villagers on you, but they aren't the ones you're focused on anymore. It's the stranger. He's the one who holds the answers. He's the one who's offering you something different. For the first time since you arrived here, you realize that this village, this life, is just a small part of something much bigger. There's a world outside of this place, a world you've never dared to imagine. And maybe, just maybe, you've been waiting for someone to come along and show you that there's more to life than just scraping by. Tell me what I have to do, you finally say, your voice steady despite the whirlpool of emotions in your chest. The stranger nods, a faint smile playing at the corners of his lips. He doesn't look surprised, doesn't look like he was expecting anything else. Good. I knew you'd come to the right conclusion. He turns toward the villagers who are still watching in silence and gestures for them to step back. Slowly they move away, creating space in the center of the chapel. The stranger steps forward, his eyes meeting yours once again. This is where your journey truly begins, he says softly. But remember, the path you choose is not without its challenges. The unknown is always filled with risks. But you've already taken the first step. You're not sure what happens next. But you know one thing for certain. You're no longer just trying to survive. You're about to discover what it really means to live. Here's your quirky tidbit. In medieval times, a traveler's arrival often signified change, but not always in positive ways. There were many who believed that outsiders brought not only new ideas but also dangers, plague, thieves, or even witchcraft. So, when someone like the stranger appeared, it often sparked a mix of fascination and fear. The air is thick with anticipation. As the stranger's words linger in the chapel, the villagers have stepped back, retreating into the shadows like silent witnesses to something they can't fully understand. You can feel the weight of their eyes on you, but it's not their approval you seek anymore. It's something else. A deeper, more urgent question that gnaws at your insides. What is this journey the stranger keeps talking about? He moves past you with a fluid grace, his cloak sweeping the floor like it has a life of its own. There's a finality in his actions, a sense that whatever happens now, the direction of your life will be forever altered. You want to follow him. You don't know exactly why, but the pull is undeniable. You feel as if every fiber of your being is drawn to him, as if something inside you recognizes the path he's offering. A part of you is terrified. What's waiting beyond the village? But a larger part of you, the part you've spent years trying to bury, is filled with something else. Hope. A spark of something new, something exciting. He stops at the altar of the chapel, a simple wooden structure with a few flickering candles on it. The firelight dances in his eyes as he turns to face you again. His expression is still calm, almost serene, as though he's been waiting for this moment his whole life. Before we go, he says, his voice soft yet firm, there are things you must understand. This journey is not just about stepping outside the walls of this village. It's about stepping outside of everything you've known, everything you've believed. This place, this life, has shaped you, yes, but it has also kept you small. And I'm here to show you that you are capable of far more than surviving. His words sting, not because they're unkind, but because they're so true. You have spent so much time simply existing in the confines of this village, not daring to dream of anything beyond it. Survival, survival, survival. Every day was a race to stay ahead of the next challenge, the next difficulty, the next storm. But that was all it ever was. You had never once allowed yourself to believe there could be something more. You look around the chapel at the familiar stone walls, the low ceiling, the simple altar. It all seems so small now. The things that once felt like your entire world are now insignificant, reduced to nothing more than memories of a life that's about to be left behind. The stranger watches you with those piercing eyes, as if he knows exactly what you're thinking, exactly what you're feeling, and somehow that makes everything feel even more surreal. He steps forward again, and for the first time he places a hand on your shoulder, a grounding touch, but one that carries the weight of unspoken understanding. "Come," he says simply, his voice like the call of something ancient and powerful. "It's time." With that, he turns and begins to walk toward the door of the chapel. You hesitate for only a moment before following him, your feet moving on their own, as if some invisible force is urging you forward. As you step outside, the rain has stopped. The night air is cool and crisp, and you can feel the weight of the darkness around you. The village seems so small now, so insignificant. The dim lights of the houses fade in the distance as you walk further and further away from everything you've ever known. The stranger leads you down a narrow path that winds through the woods, the ground slick with wet leaves and damp earth. The trees loom above you, their branches swaying gently in the wind as though they too are watching you, waiting for something. The moon hangs high in the sky, a pale, distant witness to the unfolding moment. The journey is long, but there's something oddly calming about it, something reassuring. The world feels different now, less confined, more open. The air is full of possibilities, and with each step you take, you feel that weight on your shoulders lift just a little more. After what feels like hours, you reach a clearing. The moonlight breaks through the trees, illuminating the ground in silver, casting long, stretching shadows. And there, in the center of the clearing, is a stone circle. It's ancient, older than anything you've ever seen. The stones are covered in moss, weathered by time, but there's something undeniably powerful about them. The stranger stops at the edge of the circle, and you instinctively follow suit, standing beside him. He doesn't say anything at first, but there's a quiet energy in the air, as if the land itself is alive with anticipation. You can feel it beneath your feet, in the cool breeze that brushes your skin. "This," the stranger finally says, his voice a soft whisper, "is where everything changes." You turn to face him, your heart pounding in your chest. You don't know what's about to happen, but you know this is it. This is the moment where your life shifts, where the path you've been walking for so long splinters and branches out into something completely unknown. He gestures to the stones, then to the sky above. The world is far larger than you realize. This place, this village, it was only ever meant to be a stepping stone. But the real journey, the real discovery lies beyond, and it's waiting for you to take the first step. The words seem to hang in the air, suspended like the mist around the stones. You've always believed in survival, in the necessity of fighting for each day. But this is something else entirely. This is the beginning of something different. The start of a journey not just through the world, but through yourself. You take a deep breath, feeling the weight of everything that's led you here. The days of hard work, the quiet desperation, the moments of wondering if there was something more. And now you stand on the precipice of that something. You're ready. Historians still argue whether places like this, ancient and sacred, were truly portals to other worlds or simply symbolic, representations of the threshold between ordinary life and extraordinary change. But whether magic is real or merely metaphorical, the power of these moments to transform is undeniable. The moon seems to grow brighter as the stranger steps into the center of the stone circle, his figure bathed in silvery light. For a moment, you think he might disappear, as if the stones are swallowing him whole. But instead he simply stands there, calm and composed, waiting. You hesitate, unsure what to do next. This is the moment you've been building toward, the moment where everything changes. But now that it's here, a part of you is frozen with uncertainty. You've left the village behind. You've come so far. But what lies ahead? How can you be sure this is the right path? The fear, that old companion, stirs within you, but it's quieter now. Softer, almost distant. The stranger turns back toward you, his expression unreadable in the shadows. "You don't have to follow," he says, as though sensing your hesitation. "The choice is always yours, but remember, staying here will never change anything. You will always be tied to this place, always bound to the life you've known. If you want something more, something different, you have to step into it." There's a finality in his words, a quiet certainty that strikes you deep. He's not urging you forward because he needs you to follow. He's simply offering you the chance to change. The choice is yours, and the consequences, whatever they may be, will be yours to bear as well. For a moment, you just stand there, staring at him. His eyes seem to reflect the moonlight, calm and knowing. It's as though he's seen this moment 1,000 times before, guiding others through the same crossroads. But that doesn't make it any easier. You've spent so much of your life simply existing, so much of it spent wondering if there was more to this world than the village you've known. And now the answer is before you, and it's terrifying. You take a step forward, your feet moving almost of their own accord. The ground beneath you feels solid, reassuring, as though the earth itself is encouraging you to take that next step, to move beyond the life you've known. The stranger watches you, his lips curving into a small, knowing smile. That's it. You've taken the first step. You walk toward the stone circle, the cool air brushing against your face, the sound of your boots crunching on the ground, the only sound in the night. It's oddly peaceful, the quiet broken only by the faint rustling of leaves in the trees around you. The world feels still, as though it's waiting, holding its breath for what comes next. When you reach the center of the circle, you stop. The stones are taller than you realized, their surfaces etched with ancient symbols, worn down by time but still clearly legible. You run your fingers lightly over one of them, feeling the cool, smooth surface beneath your touch. There's a strange energy in the air, something you can't explain, but it's almost as if the stones themselves are alive, their power slowly seeping into you. The stranger steps up beside you, his presence calm and steady. He doesn't speak, but there's a sense of anticipation in the air, like the moment has arrived and you can't back out now. Without warning, the air shifts. It's subtle at first, a change you feel rather than hear. The wind picks up, swirling around you, carrying with it the scent of wet earth and damp leaves. The moon seems to shine even brighter now, casting everything in sharp, silvery contrast. And then, there's a sound, a low, almost imperceptible hum. It vibrates through your body, resonating in your chest, your bones. It's not a sound you've ever heard before, but it's familiar in some strange, deep way. The hum grows louder, a steady, rhythmic pulse, and you feel it pulling at you, urging you to step deeper into the circle. The stranger's eyes are fixed on you, his face serene as though this is the moment he's been waiting for. "This is the beginning," he says softly. "The first step is always the hardest, but once you take it, there's no going back." You take another step forward, drawn in by the strange energy in the air, by the humming that now seems to fill your very being. The world around you seems to fade away as you become more and more attuned to the vibrations, the pulse, the rhythm that is flowing through you. With each step you take, you feel lighter, more connected to something beyond yourself. The earth beneath you feels more alive, the air more vibrant, the night more open. It's as though everything has shifted, and you're no longer just a part of the world. You are in it, completely and fully. The hum is louder now, and you can almost hear it in your bones. It resonates deep within you, sending ripples of energy through your entire body. Your heart beats in time with the pulse, and for the first time in what feels like forever, you feel awake. Not just physically, but on a deeper level, as if your very soul is stirring, awakening to something new. The stranger reaches out and places his hand gently on your shoulder. His touch is warm, grounding, as though he's offering you reassurance in this moment of profound change. "This is where it begins," he says again, his voice calm, steady. "But what happens next is up to you. For the first time in your life, you realize that you are no longer merely surviving. You are living. And the path before you, though uncertain and unknown, is full of potential, full of possibility. The question now isn't whether you're ready, it's whether you're willing to embrace it, to accept the change that is waiting for you, to take that step, however terrifying it may be, into a world that is far bigger than anything you've ever imagined." Historians still debate the true purpose of these ancient circles, whether they were sites for rituals, portals to other realms, or simply places of profound spiritual significance. But one thing is clear: whatever they were, they carried power. And you, standing here now, are part of that power. The air hums louder, almost as if it's calling to you, urging you to do something, to make a choice. Your heart is racing, and the world around you feels more alive than it has ever been. The stones, now glowing with an ethereal light, seem to pulse in rhythm with your very being. You feel a strange yet comforting sensation deep within your chest, like a door within you is opening, revealing something long hidden. The stranger, who has been silent up until now, watches you with those steady, calm eyes. There's no urgency in his gaze, no push to hurry. He's not forcing you to make a decision, just letting you feel the moment, the energy, and allowing you to reach your own conclusions. You feel something stir within you, something ancient, something primal. For the first time, you realize you've been living in a world that's been too small, a life of limitations, of boundaries. Your entire existence up until this point has been shaped by things you never chose for yourself. The village, the rules, the expectations, all of it has kept you locked in place. But now, standing in this stone circle, you feel the weight of those limitations begin to lift. There's something beyond them, something vast, and it's calling to you with the force of 1,000 voices. What is this? You whisper, the question slipping out before you can stop it. What's happening to me? The stranger's lips curl into a soft smile and he steps closer, his presence enveloping you like a protective cloak. This, he says, his voice low and soothing, is the awakening. This is the moment when you stop being bound by the things that once held you back. You're not just a survivor of your circumstances anymore. You're becoming something more. This is your choice, your moment to step into something new. You turn to look around you, at the stones, the moonlight, the trees standing silent and watchful at the edge of the clearing. Everything feels different. The world is larger, and yet it seems to draw closer at the same time. You can hear the distant rustle of leaves, the soft sound of wind through the branches, but it's no longer just nature's rhythm. It's as if the entire universe is moving with you, in sync with your every thought, every breath. This feeling, this overwhelming sense of change, is both terrifying and exhilarating. You can feel it deep within you, like the seeds of something new being planted. You've never been someone to take risks, to go after something beyond what's right in front of you. But here in this place, it's as though you can't help but want to take that leap. What happens if I don't, you ask, your voice quieter now, almost to yourself. What if I just stay here? The stranger tilts his head slightly, his expression thoughtful. You can stay, but nothing will change. You will always be bound to the life you've known, to the smallness of it. You'll keep walking the same path, each day just like the one before it, until time passes you by. And that's okay, if it's what you want. But if you want to change, if you want to see the world for what it really is, then you have to step forward. You have to choose something different. His words hang in the air, heavy with the weight of possibility. You can feel the gravity of the decision pressing in on you. It's a simple choice, really. Stay or go. But the simplicity of the choice doesn't make it any easier. You glance at the stones again, at the energy that seems to radiate from them, and a realization settles deep within you. This isn't just about leaving the village behind. This is about leaving behind everything you thought you knew about yourself, about the world, about what's possible. You've spent your life surviving, but what if you could live? What if you could break free of the walls you've built around yourself, the barriers that have kept you safe but also kept you small? Could you truly embrace something greater? The hum in the air grows stronger, louder, and the energy swirling around you intensifies, like a magnetic force pulling you forward, drawing you deeper into the unknown. It's no longer just the stones, no longer just the stranger. It's the world itself reaching out to you, offering you something new, something beautiful. The stranger steps back, giving you space to make your decision. He's not pushing, not rushing. His presence is a steady reminder that the choice and the responsibility lies entirely with you. You take a deep breath, your chest rising and falling in the cool night air. Your mind flashes back to the village, the cramped streets, the narrow alleys, the constant struggle to keep moving, to stay afloat. It was a life, but it wasn't living. And now, here in this moment, you feel the weight of that truth. The choice is clear. You're not sure what awaits you on the other side. But one thing is certain. Staying here, in this small world, will never bring the change you need. And if you want to truly live, to experience what it means to be free, you have to take the leap, you have to step forward. With a deep, steadying breath, you take a step into the center of the circle, the stones surrounding you on all sides. The air is thick with energy now, as if the very earth beneath you is alive, as if it's welcoming you into something greater. The hum is deafening, filling every inch of your body, your mind, your soul. You're no longer just a part of the world. You are in sync with it, a part of something far bigger, something far more powerful. The stranger watches you, his expression unreadable, but there's something in his eyes, a flicker of pride, of acknowledgement, of understanding. You've done it, you've made the choice. Welcome, he says softly, his voice barely above a whisper. This is where it all begins, and in that moment, you feel it. The first step of something greater has been taken. The journey ahead is unknown, but one thing is certain: you will never be the same. Historians still debate whether such rituals were meant to prepare initiates for physical journeys or to help them unlock their inner potential. Either way, there's no denying that they were moments of profound change, moments when people chose to step into something more. And now, you have chosen that path. You stand there, within the stone circle, feeling the world shift around you. It's subtle at first, but with every breath you take, the reality of what you've just chosen starts to sink in. The air feels thicker now, charged with something you can't quite explain, something ancient and powerful. The stones hum with an energy that resonates through your very bones, and you realize that the world is no longer what it once was. The rules, the boundaries you've known are slipping away, and for the first time in your life you are free. Free to make your own path, free to choose your own destiny. The stranger, still standing at the edge of the circle, watches you closely. His eyes are warm, filled with a quiet understanding, as though he knew this moment would come, knew you would make this choice. He doesn't speak, but there's no need to. The silence between you is not awkward or heavy, but peaceful. It's as though the world itself is giving you this moment to absorb the magnitude of what has just happened. But even in the stillness, you can't help but feel the pull of something beyond the circle. There's a vastness to the world now, a sense of endless possibility, and you realize with a start that this is just the beginning. Everything you've known up until now has been a prelude to this moment. But what comes next? You glance around the clearing once more. The trees sway gently in the breeze, their leaves rustling softly as if whispering secrets to one another. The moon, now high in the sky, casts a soft silver glow over everything, illuminating the path before you. It's almost as though the universe is unfolding in front of you, offering you the chance to step into a reality that is beyond anything you could have imagined. What happens now? You ask, your voice barely a whisper, as though speaking too loudly might shatter the serenity of the moment. The stranger finally steps forward, his movements slow and deliberate. He doesn't answer immediately, instead allowing the weight of your question to hang in the air as though he's considering his response carefully. His gaze never leaves yours, and for a moment, you feel as if he's looking right into the very core of your being, seeing the doubts, the fears, and the hopes that have always lurked beneath the surface. Now, he says, his voice low and steady, you begin the journey. His words settle over you like a soft blanket, and for the first time you understand. This isn't just about stepping into a new world. It's about stepping into yourself. The journey ahead isn't about the places you'll go or the people you'll meet, though they will be part of it. It's about discovering who you really are, beyond the walls of the village, beyond the expectations of the life you've lived. The stranger's face softens, a glimmer of something like pride flashing in his eyes. The world is vast, and there is so much to learn, so much to experience, but none of it matters if you don't first understand the one thing that will guide you through it all: yourself. You let his words sink in, feeling them settle deep within you. It's true. Everything you've known, all the experiences and lessons from the life you've lived have led you here, to this moment. But it's not just about what you've left behind. It's about what lies ahead and what you can become. You. Look back at the stones, their surface glistening in the moonlight. They seem so ancient, so timeless, but somehow they feel more alive than anything else in this world. It's as though they're a connection between the past and the future, a reminder that you are part of something far greater than yourself. The energy swirling around you feels like a doorway, one that leads not just to other realms, but to the deepest parts of your own soul. Are you ready? The stranger asks, his voice cutting through your thoughts like a gentle breeze. You hesitate for a moment, uncertainty creeping in once again. The journey ahead is unknown, and it's hard to shake the feeling that you're on the cusp of something that will change you forever. But as you stand there in the heart of the stone circle, you realize that you've already taken the first step. You're no longer the person you were when you arrived. You've already begun. Yes, you say, the word coming out more confidently than you expected. I'm ready. The stranger smiles, and it's not just a smile. It's the smile of someone who has seen countless others take this step before you. someone who understands the depth of what it means to choose this path. He doesn't say anything more, but his approval is clear in the quiet nod he gives you. For a moment, there is no sound except for the hum of the stones, the whisper of the wind, and the beating of your own heart. Steady and sure. You close your eyes for a second, allowing the moment to wash over you. The journey ahead may be uncertain, but it is yours to take. You open your eyes again, and the world has changed. The clearing, once so familiar, now seems vast and untouchable. The trees no longer feel like mere shadows in the distance. They are a part of something much larger, a part of you. You can feel the weight of the stones beneath your feet, their energy grounding you, reminding you that you are connected to something ancient, something powerful. Historians still debate whether these rituals were meant to connect individuals to the divine or to their inner power. But one thing is certain, there was something transformative about the act of stepping into these circles, something that went beyond the physical world. For you, the change is already happening. The journey has begun. As you step beyond the stone circle, a strange sense of calm washes over you, settling deep into your bones. The world around you feels infinitely more expansive than it did only moments ago. The trees that once seemed like mere shadows on the edges of the clearing now feel like ancient sentinels, their branches swaying with purpose, their leaves whispering secrets that only those who listen can understand. The night air is crisp, refreshing, and full of promise, and every breath you take feels like it's pulling you deeper into something greater than yourself. The stranger steps beside you, his presence quiet and steady. He doesn't need to say anything, not yet, but his proximity feels comforting, like a constant reminder that you're not walking this path alone. You glance over at him, but he remains silent, his expression unreadable, as though he's letting the journey speak for itself. His words earlier ring in your ears. You begin the journey. You don't know where it will lead, but there's a certainty deep within you now, one that feels as though it was always there, waiting to be unlocked. The landscape before you stretches out, wide and untamed, more vast than you ever thought possible. The dense forest, the hills in the distance, the flickering lights of the village you left behind, all of it is now just a small piece of the puzzle. And as you move forward, you feel an undeniable pull toward the unknown. The path ahead isn't paved, nor is it straight, but it's yours to choose. You could veer left into the shadows of the trees where the unknown lies in wait, or right toward the distant hills where a faint glow beckons like a distant fire. Either way, you know that whatever direction you choose, the world will change with every step you take. The stranger finally speaks, his voice as soft and gentle as the breeze rustling through the trees. The path is yours. But know this, the journey will not be easy. It will ask everything of you, and there will be times when you doubt yourself, when you wish for the safety and simplicity of what you've known. But remember, true growth only comes when we step into the unknown, when we face what we fear the most. You nod, though you don't fully understand what he means yet. You're not afraid, at least not in the way he seems to expect. There's a part of you that feels more alive than you've ever felt before, like you've woken from a deep, restless sleep, and now you're finally seeing the world as it truly is. But there's also a flicker of something else, a deep, gnawing feeling in your gut that tells you this will be more challenging than you could ever have imagined. Still, you're ready. You have to be ready. The unknown calls to you, and there's no going back now. You take your first step and then another, the ground soft beneath your feet, the air cool against your skin. The forest around you seems to open up as you walk, the trees parting just enough to allow you passage. It feels deliberate, as though the world itself is guiding you, making way for you to step into something new. The stones behind you are no longer visible, but their energy lingers in the air, a constant reminder of what you've left behind. As you walk, your thoughts begin to race. You think of the village, of the people you left behind, of the life you had. It wasn't perfect, but it was safe, predictable. It was familiar. You were always in control, even if that control came with limitations. You wonder if you'll ever see those familiar faces again, or if this journey will carry you so far that you'll become someone unrecognizable. A part of you wonders if that's the point, if this is the only way to truly discover who you are, to become the person you were always meant to be. But even as those thoughts swirl, another part of you feels a pull toward something even more profound. It's the same feeling you had when you first stepped into the stone circle, the same hum of energy, the same sense that you're part of something greater. It's as though the world itself is alive, and you've just been awakened to its true power. The trees around you seem to sway in time with your thoughts, their branches twisting and turning in a graceful dance. The moon above continues to cast its soft light on the path ahead, illuminating the way forward. The world is both still and in motion at the same time, as if everything is aligned, moving in harmony with your every step. You don't know where this journey will lead, but you're beginning to understand that it's not about the destination, it's about the journey itself. You glance over at the stranger, who's been walking beside you in silence. There's something comforting about his presence, something that reassures you that you're not alone on this journey. He's been where you are now, perhaps even further along the path, and though you don't know his story, you can tell he understands what you're going through. His gaze is steady, unwavering, as though he knows exactly where this path leads, even if you don't. For a moment, the world feels impossibly vast, yet at the same time, it feels as though everything is leading to this single point in time. You realize with a start that this is your journey, no one else's. You're the one who must choose the direction, the one who must face the challenges that lie ahead. But somehow, that doesn't seem so daunting anymore. In fact, it feels right. This is what you were meant for. Historians still argue over whether early travelers in such rituals were truly seeking enlightenment, or if they were simply following the whims of superstitions long gone. But for you, there's no question. The world is unfolding in ways you never imagined, and you are ready to embrace what comes next. The forest grows denser as you continue walking, the trees now towering above you, their trunks thick and gnarled, their roots twisting beneath the earth like ancient veins. The air is cooler here, the smell of damp soil and pine filling your nostrils, grounding you in the moment. The deeper you go, the more the world feels different. The forest is quiet now, save for the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant call of an owl. It's as though the trees themselves are holding their breath, watching you, waiting for something. You glance at the stranger beside you who walks with a steady pace, his every movement calm and deliberate. His gaze is focused straight ahead, and though he doesn't speak, there's a palpable sense of anticipation in the air. You wonder if he knows what lies ahead, if he's walked this path before, or if even he, in his wisdom, is uncertain of what comes next. The thought makes you pause for a moment. Up until now, you've trusted in his presence, in his quiet guidance, but this is different. The world around you feels alive in a way that's almost unsettling. The trees, the shadows, the very earth beneath your feet seem to be alive, aware of your every step. You can't help but feel as though you're no longer in control. And maybe that's the point, that the control you thought you had was an illusion, a crutch that you leaned on because it made the world feel safe. But here, in this vast, untamed wilderness, safety is a distant memory. You can no longer cling to the familiar. And yet, there's something strangely freeing about it, too. As if this unknown is exactly where you're meant to be. The stranger's voice breaks through your thoughts, low and measured. You may feel the weight of the unknown pressing in on you now. It's normal, but remember you are not alone in this. He pauses for a beat as though choosing his words carefully. The forest is not a place to fear. It's a place to learn. His words are soothing, but they don't erase the unease gnawing at the back of your mind. How can you not fear something you don't understand? How can you trust something that feels so foreign, so unpredictable? You want to ask him what he means, to demand answers, but somehow you know that doing so would be futile. You're meant to figure this out for yourself. The answers will come, but only if you allow yourself to walk this path with an open heart. The trees close in even more now, the canopy overhead thick with leaves that block out much of the moonlight. The path beneath your feet is soft, littered, with fallen leaves and the occasional twig, but it's still clear enough to follow. There's no sign of any other travelers, no hint of any kind of life other than your own. It feels as though the world is waiting for you, as though everything around you is waiting for you to make the next move. It's at that moment that you see it, a flicker of light in the distance, far ahead along the path. It's faint at first, barely visible through the trees, but as you take another step, it grows brighter. The light pulses steady and strong, like a heartbeat echoing through the forest. You stop in your tracks, instinctively drawn to it, a sense of purpose surging within you. The stranger, sensing your hesitation, stops as well, his gaze following yours. He doesn't speak, but you can feel the weight of his understanding. He knows what this light means. He's been here before in this very moment, and somehow, you sense that this is your next step. The light calls to you, an invitation, a promise of something more, something you can't quite name yet but feel deep in your soul. Is that? You don't finish the question. There's no need to. The stranger knows exactly what you mean. He nods slowly. It's a sign. But remember, what you find there may not be what you expect. The light isn't always what it seems. It can be a guide, yes, but it can also reveal truths you're not ready to face. Be prepared. His words don't deter you, but they linger in your mind, adding an edge of uncertainty to the excitement building in your chest. This is what you've come for, isn't it? To find the answers, to face whatever lies hidden in the heart of this forest. You can't turn back now, not when the light calls to you like this. You take a step forward, then another, the stranger following close behind. The path ahead seems to widen, the trees parting slightly as you move toward the light. The air grows warmer and a strange hum vibrates through the ground beneath your feet. The further you go, the brighter the light becomes, until it fills the space around you, bathing everything in a soft, golden glow. Finally, you reach it, a clearing, bathed in the light that pulses steadily from a single towering tree in the center. The tree is massive, its trunk thick and gnarled, its branches stretching high into the night sky. The light seems to emanate from its core, as though the tree itself is alive with energy. You stand there for a moment, taking it all in, feeling a deep sense of awe and wonder. Do you know what this is? You ask, your voice barely a whisper. The stranger steps forward, his expression softening. This, he says, is the heart of the forest. It is a place of power, a place where the world's energy converges. It is where the journey truly begins. You don't know what to say. The tree before you feels ancient, its presence undeniable. And yet, you can't help but feel as though you've been here before, as though this moment has been waiting for you all along. Historians still argue about the true nature of such places, whether they were once sites of worship or simply markers of a world long forgotten. But for you, there's no question. This is where everything changes. This is where your journey becomes real. As you stand there, bathed in the golden light emanating from the massive tree, you feel a strange pull, one that's hard to describe, but impossible to ignore. The air is thick with the power of this place, almost as though the very atmosphere is alive with energy, vibrating at a frequency you can feel deep in your chest. You take another step forward, and as you do, the ground beneath your feet seems to shift, a subtle movement, as if the earth itself is shifting to accommodate your presence. The stranger stands behind you, silent and still, as though giving you the space to take this all in. His eyes are focused on the tree, but there's something unreadable in his gaze, something that tells you he knows more about this place than he's letting on. You wonder if he's ever been here before, if he's seen this light, felt this energy. The thought lingers in your mind, but it's quickly pushed aside as you take another step forward. The closer you get to the tree, the more the light intensifies, casting long shadows on the ground around you. The bark of the tree is unlike anything you've seen before, smooth in some places, rough in others, with intricate patterns etched into its surface, patterns that seem to shift and change as you move closer. It's as though the tree is trying to communicate with you, to show you something, but you can't quite grasp what it's trying to say. You reach out, your hand trembling slightly as it inches closer to the bark. The moment your fingers make contact, a surge of energy rushes through you, sharp, electrifying, and overwhelming. Your breath catches in your throat, and for a moment, you feel as though you're floating, untethered, disconnected from everything. The world around you blurs, and you're no longer aware of the ground beneath your feet, the air in your lungs, or even the stranger standing just behind you. All that matters is the connection between you and the tree. The tree's energy pulses through you, flooding your senses with images, visions of ancient times, of distant places, of lives that have long since passed. You see flashes of a world you can't quite place, a world that feels both alien and familiar at the same time. The faces in the visions are fleeting, ghostly, but there's a sense of knowing in their eyes, a sense that they too have walked this path, have touched this very tree and felt its power. The visions shift again, and this time they focus on you. You see yourself, standing at the edge of the forest, but it's not just you as you are now. It's you becoming something more, something ancient, something connected to the very roots of this land. You see yourself standing tall, your face filled with a quiet strength, your body surrounded by a soft glow of light, as though you're one with the world around you. The vision lasts for only a moment, but it's enough to leave you breathless. The surge of energy fades as quickly as it came, and you're left standing there, your hand still resting against the tree, your body trembling from the intensity of the experience. The air around you feels heavy, charged, as though the very atmosphere is still vibrating with the remnants of that energy. You pull your hand away, and for a moment, you're unsure of what just happened. Was it real? Was it just a vision? A trick of the mind? You glance over at the stranger, seeking some kind of explanation, but he remains silent, his gaze fixed on the tree. He doesn't need to say anything. You can see it in his eyes, the understanding, the acceptance, the recognition that you've just experienced something profound, something that words can't quite capture. You take a deep breath, steadying yourself as the world around you slowly comes back into focus. The clearing is still bathed in golden light, the tree still standing strong and tall in front of you, but you now feel a deep sense of connection to it, as though it's become a part of you. The visions you saw, the feeling of power coursing through you, there's no mistaking it. This is the heart of the forest, and you are now part of it. The stranger finally speaks, his voice soft but clear. The tree has shown you what you needed to see, but remember, what you've experienced is just the beginning. There's much more ahead, much more to understand. The journey is far from over. You nod, but the words feel distant now, almost irrelevant. The images in your mind, the visions of yourself, of the power you felt, of the deep connection to the land, are all you can think about. There's a part of you that wants to linger here, to stay in this moment, to continue feeling this connection, but you know you can't. The journey must continue. The path ahead still beckons, and you're not yet finished. As you step away from the tree, you feel a sense of loss, but it's not a sorrowful loss. It's more like the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. You've been changed, irrevocably, by what you've just experienced, and you know that whatever lies ahead will be different. You are different. The stranger falls into step beside you once more, and the two of you continue down the path, the light from the tree gradually fading behind you. The forest around you seems to shift again, the trees moving ever so slightly, the air buzzing with energy. You don't know where this journey will take you, but you now understand that it's not just about the destination. It's about the transformation that happens along the way, the growth, the lessons learned, and the power that lies hidden within you, waiting to be unlocked. Historians still debate the significance of these ancient trees, of the rituals that took place beneath their branches. Some believe they were sacred, places where the gods themselves once walked. Others argue they were simply symbols of nature's power. But for you, it doesn't matter. You've felt the power for yourself, and it has changed you forever. The path seems to open before you now, the trees on either side parting just enough to allow the soft moonlight to spill through, casting a cool, silvery glow across the forest floor. The air feels different, lighter somehow, as though the very act of leaving the clearing behind has lifted some invisible weight from your shoulders. The energy from the tree still hums quietly in your veins, a gentle reminder of what you've just experienced. The forest no longer feels quite as intimidating, but that same tension remains in the air, just beneath the surface. There's more ahead, you know that much. The stranger walks beside you, his presence more comforting than ever. You've been traveling with him for what seems like an eternity now, though the days and nights blur together in this timeless place. You wonder how long he's been walking these same paths, how many times he stood in the clearing with the tree, feeling its power, learning from its wisdom. There's so much you don't know about him, about this forest, about the journey you're on, and yet you can't shake the feeling that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You glance over at him, but he doesn't meet your gaze. His eyes are fixed on the trail ahead, but there's something about his expression that's different now, more thoughtful, as though he's considering something deeply. You wonder what he's thinking, what's going through his mind as he walks alongside you as you both continue down this uncertain path. The silence between you stretches, but it's not uncomfortable. It feels right somehow. You don't need to fill the space with words. The world around you speaks for itself. Its sounds, its smells, its sights, all communicating a story that's far older than anything you could put into words. After a while, the trees thin out again, and you find yourselves on the edge of a small, shimmering pond. The surface of the water reflects the moonlight perfectly, the reflection of the trees and the stars above creating a surreal, almost dreamlike scene. The quiet ripples in the pond break the stillness, sending gentle waves across the water that seem to shimmer and dance. You pause at the edge of the water, taking in the sight. The world here feels suspended in time, as if you've stepped into some other realm where the usual rules don't apply. The moonlight glistens on the water like 1,000 tiny diamonds, and the air carries the scent of fresh pine and cool earth grounding you in the moment. It's peaceful, but there's something about this place that makes you uneasy. A quiet sense of waiting, as though something is about to happen. The stranger stands beside you, his gaze on the water. "This is a place of reflection," he says, his voice quiet. "Not just for the land, but for you." You turn to look at him, curious. "What do you mean?" He gestures toward the pond. "The water holds memories. It reflects not just the world around you, but your own heart, your own thoughts. What you see in it may not always be what you expect." You step closer to the water, peering into its depths. At first, all you see is the reflection of the trees, the moon, and the stars above. But as you stare deeper, something shifts. The water seems to darken, the reflection of the trees blurring into something else, something unfamiliar. A face emerges, not yours, but someone you recognize. A fleeting vision of someone from your past, a memory that you thought long forgotten. Your heart skips a beat. You blink, and the face is gone, replaced once again by the ripples of the water. You try to steady your breath, but the image lingers. In your mind, what was that? Was it a warning, a message? You don't know, but it's enough to make you step back from the water, your heart racing in your chest. The stranger watches you quietly, as though he's seen this before, as though he understands the effect the pond has on you. "It's normal," he says softly. "This place brings what you need to see to the surface. Sometimes it's something from the past. Sometimes it's a truth you're not ready to face." You take a deep breath, trying to shake off the lingering unease. The image in the water was unsettling, but you know that's exactly what the forest does. It reveals what you need to see, whether you're prepared or not. "You should rest," the stranger suggests, his tone kind but firm. The journey ahead is still long, and the forest can be draining. It's easy to lose yourself in the pull of the unknown, to become consumed by the things you see. It's important to regain your strength, to remember who you are. You nod, but you don't say anything. There's a part of you that wants to push forward, to keep going, to find whatever comes next. But another part of you knows he's right. The journey is far from over, and you need to prepare yourself for whatever comes next. You glance back at the water, at the reflection of the trees, and for a moment you wonder what more you'll see, what more the forest has to show you. The stranger moves to sit beside the pond, his eyes still fixed on the water. He's calm, composed, as though this is a moment of quiet reflection for him too. You sit down beside him, the cool earth beneath you grounding you once more. The world around you is silent now, save for the soft rustling of leaves in the wind and the occasional ripple in the water. And for the first time in what feels like forever, you allow yourself to breathe. Historians still argue about the significance of water in these ancient places, whether it was seen as a source of purification or as a mirror to the soul. The truth, as always, is likely somewhere in between. What's certain is that the waters hold power to reflect, to reveal, and to transform. And for you, this moment is no different. The stillness of the pond wraps around you like a blanket, soft and quiet. Its calm broken only by the occasional ripple of water disturbing the perfect reflection of the moon above. The stranger remains beside you, his presence a quiet anchor in this place where time seems to bend and stretch. His eyes, still fixed on the water, hold an unspoken wisdom, the kind that only comes from walking paths long forgotten by most. And yet, despite the peace that surrounds you, a sense of foreboding lingers in the air, a weight that presses against your chest, reminding you that there's more to this journey than you've yet discovered. You shift slightly, feeling the coolness of the ground beneath you, and a flicker of realization sparks in your mind. Everything here, the tree, the pond, the strange pull of the forest, it all feels like a test, one that's been designed to push you, to make you confront not only the world around you, but also the very core of who you are. The moments of peace like this one are rare, brief respites before the next challenge. And yet, as you sit there breathing in the quiet, you can't help but feel something stirring within you, something that whispers, you're not the same as when you started this journey. The person you were at the beginning of this trek through the forest feels like a distant memory now, replaced by someone who has touched the edges of something far bigger than themselves. You can't fully explain it, but the transformation is real. The stranger finally shifts, breaking the silence, though his voice is soft, almost as though he's speaking to himself. The journey isn't about reaching the end. It's about what happens to you along the way. He pauses, his gaze still on the water. You've changed. Whether you realize it or not, you've been shaped by everything you've experienced. So far, you don't respond right away. His words feel heavy, as though they're more than just a casual statement. He's speaking directly to something inside you, something that's been shifting with each step, each challenge. You feel that change deep in your bones, the subtle evolution that's happening, even if you can't put it into words. It's as though the forest, the tree, the pond, all of it has reached inside you and started to work its quiet magic. There's still more to see, still more to understand. The stranger continues, finally glancing at you. His eyes are steady, almost knowing, as though he's seen this process play out before. But before we go any further, take a moment. Look back at everything you've come through, everything you've learned, everything you've faced. You look back toward the path, the darkened woods that stretch out before you. The journey so far has been filled with moments of uncertainty, discomfort, and moments of unexpected clarity. You've walked through trials, seen the truth of things hidden beneath the surface, and encountered parts of yourself that were long buried, untouched. The memories are vivid, too clear to dismiss as a dream, but there's still more. You know, it as surely as you know that the moon above you will rise again tomorrow. The road ahead is just as unknown as it was when you started. The stranger's words resonate with a truth you've only begun to grasp. The journey you're on will not stop with a single destination. It will stretch on, unfolding in ways you can't predict. Every step, every choice will shape you further, molding you into something, someone, new. The stranger stands, dusting himself off, the movement bringing you back to the present. He offers a hand to you, his gesture simple, yet meaningful. This is the moment you realize, the moment before the next step. You don't know what's waiting for you down the path, but you know that you're not walking it alone. There's something deeply comforting in that thought. You reach up, accepting his hand, and pull yourself to your feet. The world around you seems to shift again, as if it, too, is ready to move forward. The pond's surface reflects the moon's light more brightly now, the calm waters almost beckoning you to take one last look, as if to say goodbye. You glance at it for a moment, the stillness settling in your chest before turning your back on the reflection and stepping onto the path with the stranger once more. Historians still debate the nature of this kind of journey, of what it truly means to walk through a place that changes you, that forces you to confront not just the outside world but the very fabric of your being. Some say it's the trials that shape you. Others argue it's the quiet moments of reflection, like this, one that leave the most lasting impact. But whatever the truth may be, there's one thing that's certain. You will never be the same. The path ahead is uncertain, and yet, for the first time in a long time, you don't feel the need to rush toward the end. There's a calm acceptance in knowing that this journey is far from over. With every step, with every choice, you're becoming more of who you're meant to be. And somehow, that's enough. The wind stirs gently in the trees, and the distant hum of the forest feels like a promise, an invitation to continue forward. You and the stranger walk side by side, the journey unfolding before you one step at a time. The journey has led you far, deeper into yourself than you ever imagined you could go. You've faced the unknown, walked through moments of doubt, and discovered pieces of you that had been hidden in the shadows. But now, as the night settles around you, there's a peace in your heart that wasn't there before. The path ahead still holds mysteries, but the weight of uncertainty no longer feels as heavy. You've learned, you've grown, and though the journey continues, you are no longer the same person who started this trek. The forest hums quietly, its song a lullaby that matches the soft rhythm of your breathing. The stranger's presence, though quiet, feels like a steady anchor as you walk beside him. For a moment, it feels as if time has paused, the world holding its breath with you, allowing you a chance to reflect, to breathe, and to simply be. You've learned that the journey isn't always about the destination. Sometimes it's about what you find along the way, what shapes you, what teaches you, and what leaves a mark on your soul. As you continue down this path, one step at a time, you begin to understand that the answers you seek may not come all at once. Sometimes the quiet moments of reflection are the most important, because it's in those moments that the biggest changes happen. So as you walk forward, know that there's no rush. The world will unfold as it's meant to, and you'll meet whatever comes next with a heart that's stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever awaits. For now, just let go of the tension, let the night embrace you, and allow the journey to continue in its own time. Sweet dreams.